Isn't this a sports show?
I don't know. Okay.
Things get weird over here.
Yeah, it's true.
Almost entirely.
Chad, I can only imagine in response to us singing the Bananas in Pajamas theme song, said there's a reason other shows don't do it. It's a sports show. Or at least I thought it was.
Well, that was your first mistake. It's almost entirely sports.
That's the name of the show!
This is Almost Entirely Sports with Joshua Brisco.
I'm pretty sure there's always going to be somebody we're better than and somebody we're worse than.
Take the show with you by listening on the Sports Radio 810 mobile app at 810WHB.com or by searching for Almost Entirely Sports wherever you get your podcasts.
You either listen to the show because you really like the Chiefs or because you really hate sports radio. And I am super cool with either of those reasons.
This is Almost Entirely Sports on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
I'll be honest. I expected to be tampered with by now. Like, I don't want to sound needy. I just figured that by 7 o'clock tonight, that there would have been some light legal tampering happening anywhere in my vicinity.
That's what somebody who has been tampered with but doesn't want the NFL to know they've been tampered with would say, Josh.
I've not been tampered with, and I expect to be tampered with. Dang it. The NFL's legal tampering period opened today, and you would know that if you're a fan of the Jacksonville Jaguars, which is not to say that I'm totally in line with what the Jags have been doing. But I will say this. You have to, sometimes I try to give you, an objective truth, right? Or a take that I want you to hear from me. I want to bring you, you're a horse, you can't make them drink, but you can bring them up to the trough. I want to bring you up to the trough sometime and tell you to look in, say, there's the truth. Now you drink that up. And then sometimes, I'm just going to tell you, I'm just a kid trapped inside on a snow day. I feel like a bunch of my friends are outside sledding. I got a cold. I'm looking out the window. And I don't think what the Jags are doing or what the Jets are doing is anything that's going to change the direction of their respective franchises. I'm just looking out the window and feeling like it seems like it'd be a little more fun out there to be the Jags today. Not that it's good. Not that they're going to turn that franchise around. Not that I'm actually in any way, shape, or form jealous of the Jacksonville Jaguars. None of that is true.
But they have an Etienne, whose first name I've already forgotten.
But I'm just kind of looking out the window right now, and I'm seeing some NFL teams doing some stuff today. And I don't think the Chiefs are wrong by not scooping up any of these free agents, although there's one that I would have taken the deal on for sure. We'll get around to that.
They never were. I'm 90% confident I know who you're talking about, Josh.
Yeah.
Because everybody's been tweeting about it.
You're right.
And why we think they even thought about it. Mm-hmm. They didn't.
No, they didn't. That's fine. I'm just saying that 8 hours into the NFL's legal tampering period, I am not even being critical. I am just a little underwhelmed by the fact that the only really pertinent Chiefs news is that it sounds like they're actually going to really, really, really try to restructure Frank Clark's contract. That is not the news I expected to see today. It is not the news that I was looking for whenever there was a shotgun start at 11. I thought, you know what? I've been at my battle station today, man. I spent like 7 hours at my battle station at my desk. I got 2 monitors. I got one of them on TweetDeck 24/7. I'm watching all these moves happen. I'm thinking, all right, well, maybe we're going to get a name here soon. And the only real news of the day for the Kansas City Chiefs specifically is that it seems like they're really going to try to restructure Frank Clark. And even restructure is not exactly the right word there. More on that in a second. But the floodgates have been opened. And also, to be fair, I'm mentioning like the Jags because they're giving out monopoly money to guys that probably aren't going to end up giving them a good return on their investment. And it seems like they're the ones out here with just their first credit card and not totally understanding how credit cards work. There haven't been a ton of earth-shattering moves so far today. And as Rudy Salazar, on the other side of the glass, was certainly alluding to, I think maybe the two most interesting signings of the day today have both been at the cornerback position, which the Chiefs are religiously compelled to ignore until the third, fourth, fifth, sixth round of the NFL draft. It's just four. There's not a third rounder there recently either. It's just fourth rounder later.
Third day, and they'll probably sign a free agent for like 1 year, $2 million, and he'll play well on special teams, and he'll probably have a game where he's pretty good because that's just the voodoo magic that Steve Spags has apparently with that position.
I like calling him Steve Spags. I feel like it's always either Steve Spagnuolo or it's just Spags. But I feel like calling him Steve Spags really makes it that makes him even more of like a grunt in a mob movie, you know? Steve Spags is a henchman. Steve Spagnuolo is in charge of some things. Little Stevie Spags, he's just running around making a mess of stuff. He's just doing whatever the Penguin tells him to do. Steve Spagnuolo, though, he's your Falcone. Or Falcone or whatever. I saw the new Batman movie not that long ago, and I can't remember how they were pronouncing that name. I think I was surprised by it. I think they were saying Falcone, but I think the Dark Knight trilogy went Falcone. There was something surprising there to me. There was something that was one of my very few complaints with the new Batman movie, was that I was distracted for at least a little while about how they were pronouncing that last name. I think the Dark Knight went Falcone, and I think the Batman went Falcone. Enjoyed the movie, though.
Will the sequel be called Batman?
It's going to be called And Batman.
Ah.
You have the Batman and Batman with Batman.
Not to be confused with Ant Batman.
No, Ant Batman
That's
is
a whole different thing.
Totally different crossover. And you get into the prepositions, right? It's above Batman, aboard Batman, around Batman. There's a really enormous prepositional cinematic universe.
Beyond Batman.
Beyond Batman.
Which is actually the spiritual successor to Batman Beyond.
100%. It's the gritty remake. They can save so much on marketing. They just switch the words. So here's my actual real analysis. Not my little kid trapped inside on a snow day, like face pressed up against the glass, looking outside, fogging up the glass. That's what I felt like for the last 7 hours, because I guess now 8 hours, because I just kind of wanted something to happen. Here's my new reference point. You know, in the first Incredibles movie, there's a little kid on the tricycle. Mr. Incredible goes, "What are you looking at, kid?" Or "What are you waiting for?" He goes, "I don't know. Something amazing, I guess." I feel like Brett Veach could be, "Come on, kid, what are you waiting for? What are you watching around? Well, come on, what did you want here?" Go, "I don't know. Just something. Just something that might be kind of fun to talk about on the radio." That's my emotion of today so far. Here's what I actually think about what's happened so far to this point, okay? Of the targets that I mentioned actually having a little bit of interest in to this point here today, I'll give you the contract details on J.C. Jackson, formerly of the Patriots, now of the Chargers. I want to talk about the Chargers as well here tonight. I liked that deal for the Chargers. The structure of it all makes sense. The guaranteed money makes sense. Maybe he wanted to play with Derwin James really badly. There's a connection there that goes way back. But I don't know that a hometown discount or I want to play with my friend discount ever really ends up hitting that illustriously in the promo code box. I don't think JC Jackson was running a promo. You know, you're running the Honey browser extension, use promo code Derwin for 10% off. I don't think it was that.
What's the Honey Badger extension?
That's also not happening. Whoa, what? No, I don't know. Actually, I do think the way that today went, I think that door was not locked, but maybe closed, or at least, cracked. You say, "Hey, should I shut this door?" No, just leave it cracked. I kind of felt like that was Tyrann Mathieu and Tarvarius Ward maybe earlier today. What's slightly more open than a cracked door, but not fully open? Maybe it was unlocked but closed, and now it's cracked open. I don't know.
I know visually what it would look like.
Right. It's about twice as open as a cracked door.
Yeah, but I don't know what the term for a door that goes from cracked to I don't know, a foot open.
You'd have to open it more to walk through it, but you could hear outside easier maybe.
You can look out, you can see what's going on, but
it's the holler when you need me door opening.
Yeah.
That's where I think maybe Tyrann Mathieu and Charvarius Ward are at. Here's the deal real quick on J.C. Jackson with the Chargers. 5 years, $82.5 million, $40 million get fully guaranteed at signing, but basically boils down, according to Michael Giannetti of, I think it's Giannetti. I don't know if I've ever had to say his last name out loud before, of Spot Track. He's at Spot Track on Twitter. So it basically boils down to a 3-year, $54.3 million deal. Probably would have done that. $8 million in 2022, $17 in 23, $19.3 in 2024. And then after that, you can either keep them on $19 million cap hits in 24 and 25, or you can pretty much walk away from that.
Real fast, repeat the number that he said it was 3 years.
Basically 3 years, 54.
Okay, give me a second. I'll circle back to you.
Okay. Are you looking up Tyrann Mathieu's last contract?
No, I just want to know what the Chiefs have spent on their cornerback room as a total the last 3 years. Because I'm not sure if it exceeds $54 million.
No. Go find Kent's piece if you want to go back to the KCSN Substack. I think Kent might have done that math a little while ago. Yeah, that's a good call. That's a good shout, as they say in soccer, Rudy. So I would have been totally fine with that deal. And then also Carlton Davis goes back to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Oh, also
biggest signing for them.
Yeah, you know this already because your method of interacting with the world is not exclusively almost entirely sports, but God forbid somehow this is your only sports media that you consume in any way, shape, or form. Tom Brady's back.
What?
He was retired for a month and a half. I don't know if he just doesn't like his family or doesn't like avocados or strawberries or whatever. But that's a strange one. Not because he's playing football still. I was surprised when he retired. I don't know why you don't just say, hi, I'll let you know by the start of free agency. Because we could have given him that time. It would have been annoying, but we could have at least saved ourselves the trouble of going through an entire retirement process. I even told you that Saturday when that news first broke, I was kind of bummed to be going into a world without Tom Brady playing NFL football. I'm not necessarily excited about it now. It's fine. But my overwhelming emotional response to that was just, wait, why? Huh? Really? But why not just never retire? I don't know. But J.C. Jackson and Carlton Davis both end up with deals that I like for the teams in both of those instances. But insofar as actual big signings that I think could have made some sense for the Chiefs, to Rudy's point and pending his research, this would have been out of character for the Chiefs. The other thing is that J.C. Jackson getting 3 years, $54 million might mean good news for Charvarius Ward's market being a little less expensive than we might have expected. But also, I still don't know that the Chiefs are going to outbid anybody for corners. I'm not holding my breath on the Charvarius Ward return. It seems a little more likely since the market seems a little bit depressed from where a lot of people thought it was going to be, specifically around corners. Again, though, don't hold your breath waiting for the Chiefs to give more than $3 million to a corner. AJ Bouye got cut. There was it Jeff Gladney, who was released after some violence allegations that were then later dropped. They signed Damon Arnett. I don't know the details of the Jeff Gladney story or what exactly needs to get figured out there still. But
Vikings first round pick?
But former first round pick cut for alleged assault brought back in for a second chance with the Chiefs on their practice squad for a week and then eventually on the active roster feels extremely on brand, for better or for worse, for what this team does at that position.
So I was hoping to expand on this and see how many years it took me to go back to get to
Yes.
54 million, but
Yes.
I'm on Spot Track, and you can only go 3 years back, and then you have to have a premium.
Sure.
So I could only go back to 3 years. Over the last 3 years, the Chiefs have spent $23,949,116 on all their cornerbacks.
Why don't you go ahead and go tweet that out? Go quote tweet that Spot Track tweet with the JC Jackson details there, Rudy. That's some good math.
And now, that obviously doesn't count like Honey Badgers played some corner, right? It doesn't count those guys, obviously. Just the standard corners.
Yeah, I mean, I think your point there is pretty evidently made. I think that is a. I'm a little bummed about J.C. Jackson going to the Chargers for this number, and I think that math there does a pretty good job of reminding me that at this point, it's fool me 17 times the Chiefs pass on a corner. Shame on me. I'm going to circle back to the Chargers in a second. The actual piece of Chiefs news today, and this one's kind of multifaceted and also kind of annoying. We've gotten 47 different iterations of the Chiefs will attempt to restructure Frank Clark, but assuming that nothing strange happens, they expect to release him. And then also they might be interested in Zadarius Smith. Zadarius Smith was cut by the Green Bay Packers. He is a year older than Frank Clark, which I find funny just because this is always how this process goes in free agency. Somebody else's cap casualty turns into a great value for your team, but your team's cap casualty is a bum. It's just the familiarity process. It's just the grass is always greener with a different late 20s edge rush or whatever. Zadarius Smith has been much more productive over the last few years than Frank Clark has, to be completely clear on that front. But I do think that cycle is always kind of funny. But even with these various iterations of the Chiefs they'd like to restructure Frank Clark, but they're probably going to have to cut him, blah, 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 blah. None of it has actually been news. Even the quote-unquote developments or the stuff from your sources is ultimately conjecture, just with background information, and that stuff has only started to irk me more lately. I don't know if it's the last couple of months of weak content or if it's just knowing enough how the sausage gets made at this point to be even more annoyed whenever it's made inappropriately. But this idea of, report, Chiefs expect means you don't know. Chiefs would maybe they would. But they're keep an ear out for those code words over the remainder of this process.
Which you can use on the Honey Badger extension.
Chiefs, ready? Here, everybody. Here, I'm going to do one for you, okay? Everybody perk up, okay? If both sides could come to terms on the price and length of the deal, the Chiefs would like to have Tyrann Mathieu back. Poof, breaking news. I just said nothing. It might have sounded like I said something. I just said nothing. If the Chiefs and Tyrann Mathieu could both agree on Mathieu signing a 1-year, $6 million deal, the Chiefs would bring him back on that number. You're welcome. You see what I mean? It's just, the Chiefs would like to work it out with Frank Clark, but if they can't, they would have to release him. And if they were to release Frank Clark, they would reportedly look to bolster their pass rush in a different way. You hit the sounder again, Rudy. You hit the sounder again for that one. That's breaking news, folks. Frank Clark will either be a Chief or not, depending on how the next couple of days or potentially weeks go. We could have news as soon as tonight. Be impossible for there to be news sooner than tonight. It is tonight already. The Chiefs and Frank Clark, I believe, will have a resolution before the beginning of training camp. That resolution could come as soon as 1 second from now. I'm an insider, baby. So some of that stuff is nonsense, right? What I do think is a little bit interesting, though, on the Frank Clark saga is that you start getting, over the course of the day today, a lot more people with a lot of connections and reason to know things, a lot more people putting their name on working on a restructured deal. Now, everyone's still couching it, right? Like Albert Breer had one of the more definitive reports of the Chiefs are working on a restructured deal for DE Frank Clark, per sources. Here's your couching. Sides are uncertain whether they'll be able to get it done, but they're at least trying to find a way to keep Clark in the fold. I think that is not just a fart in the wind, okay? There's something there of like, hey, this is actually an effort that they are making, and I'm going to circle back to Sam McDowell of the Kansas City Star, who, especially locally, knows things. I would put more juice behind the things that our people in the area are saying throughout this process. I mean, obviously, a lot of the national insiders will have direct information from agents or teams or whatever, but when we're talking about speculative, sort of half-reported, half-thinking out loud stuff, whenever there's a certain crew of reporters that you should listen to whenever they say something, and McDowell is on that list, despite the fact that he's a columnist now. There's your breaking news. Sam tweeted this. The Chiefs figured out an avenue in which the cap number with Clark makes more sense than the combined cap number of Clark's release and signing someone of his caliber. They took it to Clark earlier this month. He's interested in a return to KC. That right there also is like, that's some definitively new stuff. The edge rusher market is expensive. If a restructure works out, it wouldn't preclude the Chiefs from looking to bolster the position in other avenues either. Here's where I'm at on this, and here's your little fun with the salary cap background on a conversation that we are going to, we have conversations like this in March as you're around these contracts. Here's what's noteworthy for me in terms of what the Chiefs could do here. Frank Clark's current cap hit for this season would be $26.3 million. He is obviously not going to play for the Chiefs under that cap hit. That's crazy. It's also another reminder that ultimately this contract was not a good one. The trade was not a good one for the Chiefs, and I don't really want to fight about that. I don't really care how you want to do sacks in the playoffs or whatever, because it's also, it's difficult to say what would it look like without Frank Clark. It's also really difficult to say, hey, what would the Chiefs look like if they had those draft picks back and all of that salary cap space over these last 3 years, and then also the next couple of years when Clark is still going to be a burden on the salary cap.
But the Super Bowl, Josh.
I don't really. Sometimes I say things and then
Do
it's
you
like.
not like Super Bowls?
Sometimes I say things and it's like, oh, go ahead, swoop in. You can tweet me if you have a different opinion. On this one, I'm just telling you, like, look, I don't. I think if I could hop into a time machine and tell Brett Veach he could undo that trade, knowing everything he knows right now, he would, and then he would find somebody else to help clean up some messes in a Super Bowl run. I think the team would be better in the long term, and that no one ever had the thought of like Frank Clark Super Bowl MVP or whatever. But
Well, yeah, because it should have been Damian Wilson. Williams, but also Damian Wilson.
Look, how many Super Bowls have they won without Damian Wilson?
I heard he might be coming back.
0. That's a flat 0. Damian Wilson wouldn't win a Super Bowl without him, because they did win one with him and haven't won one since. Damian Williams also, actually.
Eric Fisher.
I was going to say him next. Mitchell Schwartz. They didn't have that many people leave that offseason, so that list does start getting shorter.
As my dad would call him, the sausage roll.
Look, no offense to Michael Burton, but how many Super Bowls has Michael Burton won with the Chiefs? Zilch. Just saying. Look, Creed Humphrey is pretty good, but Chiefs won a Super Bowl with Austin Ryder at center and didn't win one with Creed Humphrey. I'm just saying. I think that's apparently worth noting. Anywho, Frank Clark's not playing on a $26 million cap hit, but this contract also isn't really about a restructuring. In this particular instance, that word is not it's not terribly precise. It's generally true enough, but it's not terribly precise. Because here's the issue. Frank Clark this year and next year has a $6.8 million prorated bonus that he got and got paid at the time of signing his deal. That prorated bonus gets stretched out over the course of the contract, and so he has $6.8 million against the cap this year and next year that has been in his bank account now for 3 years. That is paid money. The interesting thing is that none of the rest of Frank Clark's money, and really I guess none of the new money that he doesn't already have, none of the new money is guaranteed. And so if the Chiefs want to move him off the books, they have a couple of options. They do have 3 options the way that I see it to free up some calorie sap space. That's what I call syrup, is calorie sap. Salary cap space. If they cut Frank Clark right now and they say, peace, we're done, they would free up $12.7 million in 2022 maple syrup space. They'd get 12.7 right back, but also he would be on the cap for $13.6 million for this year while not playing for the team. They could also cut him and designate him as a post-June 1st cut. That would free up $19.5 million and still only, and at that point only, but still carry a $6.8 million dead cap hit this year and $6.8 million in dead cap hit next year. The issue with the post-June 1st cut is that you don't get that money sort of in your budget until June 1st. That's after all of free agency. That's after the draft. You're talking about your pre-training camp signings then, or if you wanted to extend somebody else and, maybe front load a little bit, which is not the Chiefs' MO, nor should it be. You could get a little belt loosening money there, and actually a ton of it, but it wouldn't show up yet. For the Chiefs to get spend on Allen Robinson money, I'm kind of just picking a name, but we'll talk about the receivers in a second. They would have to cut him now and then eat the entirety of those 2 prorated bonuses also now. I'm going to lay out the groundwork again for me personally. I do not think that the Frank Clark trade and subsequent contract deserves to be remembered as a victory. Again, you win a Super Bowl, so you can kind of get away with whatever you want. I'm not even interested in having that conversation. And so maybe I shouldn't even bring it up. I don't know, but I'm not going to try and hide it either. I'm just telling you I don't really want to talk about it. I don't really want to fight about that. Breaking news. And ultimately, I think we will remember Frank Clark as a guy who had a great postseason and an otherwise disappointing career around the Chiefs, who had issues with guns and health and production, health on a variety of levels, consistency. And it just is what it is. That's the overall picture of Frank Clark's time in Kansas City. I'm probably going to be lower on than most people because I'm not incredibly infatuated by the 2019 playoff run, because I don't think that he was the only person in that spending range who would have been capable of being productive at that spot. And if you've got a 55 jersey, whatever, and they won the Super Bowl with it, cool, man. I won't lose any sleep over what you think. You don't lose any sleep over what I think. We're cool. But I lay that out to say I'm kind of a Frank Clark downer, I think, more often than not, at least on Twitter. I also don't think the Chiefs ought to spend very much money to keep him around because of the incredible inconsistency of his time here. Even the biggest Frank Clark fans will argue that the justification for that trade and contract came over a 4-week period, a 3-game, 4-week period. And the best you've ever gotten from him is 3 or 4 good weeks. He had 3 or 4 good weeks in a row early last season as well. Not early, mid last season, I guess. And kind of trailed off again. If you told me the Chiefs have a certain amount of money and they can only bring back Frank Clark or Melvin Ingram, I'd lean towards the latter. If you told me they could only spend a certain amount of money on one of those guys or Zadarius Smith, now at that point, looking long-term again, I'd lean towards the latter, but I think they'll draft someone early on as well. But if Frank Clark, not a restructure, there's no money to move around really, but if Frank Clark said, hey, you guys are holding me here, I'd like to be here. Maybe I hit free agency next offseason after a better single season, kind of a contract year for Frank Clark. And I will drop my unguaranteed base salary from $19 million to a fully guaranteed $6.8 million. I actually think that move might make sense. Here's why. I've been setting you up and walking you along this whole time. Here's the payoff of it. If Frank Clark dropped his base salary to $6.8 million tomorrow, which is, again, him volunteering a $12.2 million quote-unquote pay cut, but it's also not money he's going to get from the Chiefs otherwise. If he volunteers a $12 million pay cut for the sake of getting a one-year deal for $7 million fully guaranteed, which I think he could probably do better than on the open market, which is why this number is a little tenuous for me. That would be, at $6.8 million, seven, it's very close, obviously. At $6.8 million, that would be the exact same amount of salary cap relief today as it would be to cut him outright today. Now, you are still snoozing $6.8 million on the next year, but you would be freeing up the same amount of money before this. I'm not even considering the post-June 1st cut right now. But if you were going to cut him today, you could snooze $6.8 million. If you restructured him for $6.8, you could snooze about $7 million into next year's dead cap hit, and you'd have Frank Clark on the team. Sources say even Joshua Brisco, not necessarily the world's biggest Frank Clark apologist, thinks that this roster may as well have Frank Clark on it rather than not if the options are financially identical. Sources are saying. Sources close to Josh Brisco are saying this. So there is a window there. And I think more likely it's, well, what if it's 1 year, $10 million? Okay, well now it's $3 million more than you'd get with the cut right now, and it's about $7 million next year. And how would bringing back Frank Clark ultimately maybe limit them from adding other options? What is the budget? What's the expectation for what Melvin Ingram is going to cost, et cetera, et cetera? But even as someone whose first reaction to this news was a resounding, really? Even for me, I want to let you know that there is a world, there is a path where I do think this makes sense. I do not know if the Chiefs and Frank Clark are going to get to that point. I don't know if there's a way to make that make sense for both sides financially. Because if I'm the Chiefs, I would have my ceiling really close to that $7 million mark that would basically make it about an even wash. And maybe right now, if you're Frank Clark's crew, you're going to wait around a little bit, see what your market would be. And if he thinks he could go get 30 guaranteed over 3 years somewhere else, he should say, cut me and go take that. If his market ends up looking more like 1 year, $12 million, maybe you try to get it one more year in Kansas City in a system that's been basically, built to feature you. Give it another go and see if you hit free agency again next year and get a bigger bag. But I am not enthused by this idea. Really, I'm not enthused by the idea of the Chiefs viewing Frank Clark as their number one defensive end again next year. That, I think, regardless, should not be what they're doing. Frankly, I'm not sure it should be Melvin Ingram either. Just age, and almost certainly would be another 1 year deal probably. But I do think it's kind of interesting that door is open there, and even I, a bit of a skeptic, can find a path in which it makes sense fiscally for the Chiefs. There's also the wide receiver position. There's also what the Chargers are doing. We'll talk more about that on the other side of the break. Matt Derrick of Chiefs Digest to talk about all this Chiefs stuff. He'll join us at 8, and then at 9 o'clock, this is our only AES of the week. We've got basketball starting. I'm filling in on the Zone along with Jason and Beards. Corey is out. I'll be in Corey's chair the rest of the week on the Zone here on 8-10 the rest of this week. Our only AES of the week, so our only AES before the NCAA tournament begins. We will have our resident bracketologist and expert in every sense of the word, Chloe Brisco will join us over the phone live from Florida, the greater Tampa St. Pete area. She will clear out her busy schedule of prognostication to go pick by pick to fill out her 2022 March Madness bracket. That's at 9 o'clock tonight, so we will plan our entire show around that. I'd like to say now, I have to assume that a dog-based mascot is going to win the whole thing. But I think last year she might have beat Rudy or definitely beat Beards. I'll review the tape by the 9 o'clock hour as well. We're doing mostly Chiefs, mostly free agency, and then a little bracketology at 9.
Want more Almost Entirely Sports? Watch the show live on the Sports Radio 810 Facebook page. This is Almost Entirely Sports with Joshua Brisco
I dream about salary cap stuff at this point. It's really sad.
on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Mentioning all the brackets and everything, there's the bracket challenge at 810WHB.com. You can go to 810WHB.com/brackets. You can enter your bracket there to compete against all of us here at Sports Radio 810. I think it also looks like the Almost Entirely Sports group from last year has just recreated itself. I was honestly going to let that go this year and just try to do the 810 one, but I also realized this is the easiest way for me to track Dr. Professor, Richard Justice. I couldn't write Dick Justice into the bracket name last year. I'm remembering now. That's why it says Richard Justice, the dog. And last year, Beards McFly, R.I.P., lost to all of Dr. Professor, Chloe, and Dick Justice. So, and of course, me and Rudy. We crushed last year, Rudy.
And as punishment, we sent him to the dark realm.
Yes, that's right. We banished him to the great beyond.
That's why he's no longer with us. RIP.
That's right. That's right. It's just he wasn't good enough on the brackets. Dick Justice is still here. We'll talk to Chloe again.
Always get rid of your weakest link. That way you remain elite.
That's what it was. Also, while I was talking about all of the things that haven't happened so far today, also, Rudy, you think we're going to take another break here within this hour? Do you need to take another little timeout partway through? I went real long in that first segment. We could take another break. I'm just trying to make sure I don't read your mind badly.
Yeah, I've got to set up for
Let's do that.
one.
That's fine. Here's a little bit of news, though, from while we were talking in that first segment. Adam Schefter says the two teams that have expressed the most interest in former Browns wide receiver Jarvis Landry are the Kansas City Chiefs and New Orleans Saints. Here's the receiver section of all of this, okay? I talked about Frank Clark first segment. Tom Pelissero of NFL Network said earlier today that the Chiefs, Lions, and Browns are all interested in Allen Robinson, the former Bears wide receiver. Also, Aaron Wilson tweeted that the Chiefs and several others are interested in former Packers wide receiver Marquez Valdez-Scantling. There's been some talk about DJ Shark. DJ Shark. But nothing actually reported connecting him to the Chiefs explicitly. Seems like the Jarvis Landry thing has had legs over the course of the day today. I'm hesitant. I feel like I know that maybe I'm going off of a couple years ago, but I feel like the Allen Robinson idea has a little higher ceiling, is maybe a little more exciting. With Jarvis Landry, if you miss it, the reason that the Browns cut Jarvis Landry is because they brought in Amari Cooper, which is a weird one. All of it's just sort of strange. I'm not totally sure what the Browns are doing. Frankly, not totally sure what the Cowboys are doing. I'm frankly not sure what the Chiefs are doing, I guess, so it is what it is. The price for Jarvis Landry and the price for all of these free agents are obviously like very, very relevant to any of the conversations. If Allen Robinson and Jarvis Landry are the same price, I'd rather have Allen Robinson. If Jarvis Landry is looking for a 2-year, $14 million deal, then yeah, of course, then bring him in. No reason not to. I am cautious about Jarvis Landry because I'm not sure if he's what the Chiefs offense needs the most. He'd make them better. And maybe you could look to the Sammy Watkins side of things and say, okay, well, what if you have a guy here who is maybe mostly doing some sort of mid-range stuff? But Sammy Watkins could also actually hurt you down the field in a way that I don't frankly think he ends up getting enough credit for. He was a threat downfield.
I'll never forget that play against Richard Sherman in the Super Bowl.
Just
straight up beat him off the line of scrimmage and just
toasted
ran
him.
a go.
Just toasted him. That was in Sammy Watkins' toolbox. I don't know if it is in Jarvis Landry's right now.
I don't know if it ever really was. Like, Jarvis
That's
Landry
fair.
has, like, a lot of, like,
His stats are hilarious, especially in Miami.
Ton of catches.
Yes.
Not a lot of yards relative to those catches. Like, that's kind of Jarvis Landry's game. But really, really good at what he does. Just Sammy Watkins, like, he gets bad rap around here quite a bit, and some of it's justified, right? He was hurt frequently.
Mm-hmm.
But man, when he was on the field, like he had the ability to make plays. He was a playmaker.
Jarvis Landry in his last year with Miami, I'm cherry picking, it's not fair. His last year in Miami had 161 targets, career high, or just behind a career high, 112 receptions, a career high, and 987 yards. That's 8.8 yards per reception. His second year in Cleveland, he had 14.1 yards per reception, just as a point of reference.
That has to be like it has to be the record for like most catches under 1,000 yards.
Has to be. So yes, that is a good call. I'm going to,
and I think he's better than 8 yards a catch because he was in Miami, right? That's
right.
That's
it was better. He was in double digits every year in Cleveland. Again, it's not totally fair. I'm cherry picking, but
it does say the style of receiver. I would say that he is.
Byron Pringle this year averaged 13.5 yards per carry or per reception. Jarvis Landry has been at 11.7 and a flat 11 these last couple of years. He's also, is he going to be, this will be his age 29. It'll be his age 30 season. I think he'll turn 30 mid-season. Some quick math. Yes, he's born in November. So he'll turn 30 this season. Here's my real quick, soft launch of a Jarvis Landry take. If he is legitimately like if he was wide receiver 2.5, I could get in on it. Where Tyreek Hill's clearly your one, and then Jarvis Landry, and then some receiver drafted in the first 2 rounds. He is seeing his workload increase. Maybe he's the speedy target that can punish teams downfield as well. And then Jarvis Landry cleans up some messes, becomes kind of a super possession receiver in the meantime. That's great. I wonder how much Jarvis Landry can do that Travis Kelce isn't doing better already. I think that the place that Jarvis Landry and Travis Kelce fit in a fantasy football lineup might be confusing some people because they have the best short yardage possession receiver in football. He just plays tight end. And even then, Travis Kelce's yards per reception have been over 12 yards, or has been over 12 yards every year of his career, except for his rookie year when he didn't, catch a pass. Every year that he's played, Travis Kelce's averaged somewhere between 12 and 13.5 yards per reception. Those numbers are right there, a little bit above Jarvis Landry. Quarterback dependent and scheme dependent, all that I understand. I like Jarvis Landry just fine, but I think it is just fine. It would, in a way that the cost and what the Chiefs do next really would matter for me.
It has to, for me, I think honestly, whoever they signed in free agency, if they sign a wide receiver, I think this applies for literally everybody. I want to see a receiver also drafted.
Yeah.
But especially with Jarvis Landry, the Justin Ross type, the Jahan Dotson type, like the guy who can stretch the field a little bit more. Yep. That guy needs to also be brought in and paired with Jarvis Landry.
Juju was the youngest of that group of guys, and maybe he'd buy him more time. But even as a Tyreek Hill extension seems to be in the works, the Chiefs have a long-term need at receiver also. Like, drafting a guy relatively highly, I think, only makes sense, like you said, with literally everybody. Maybe Juju would be the one that would give you a little bit of a chance to pass on that if you needed to wait until next year or whatever. I just haven't liked where this position has been outside of Tyreek Hill and by extension Travis Kelce now since they cut Sammy Watkins and even, late in the Sammy Watkins experience. We talked about that position a ton last year and also leading up into the 2020 draft. And the Chiefs took basically a wide receiver instead of taking an actual one. And so now we're here.
Worked out for the Jags.
It didn't, actually. Let's take another break. Whenever we come back, I'll give you my quick take on the Chargers, or I'll talk about something else. We'll get to Matt Derrick shortly thereafter. One of those two, though.
Did you know you can listen to Almost Entirely This is Almost Entirely Sports with Joshua Brisco.
I went to BYU, so every down's a throwing down. I mean, that's how that goes.
On Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Here's where I'm at on the receiver market, okay? I'm going to give you one more little thought into the wind, then we'll take a break, come back with Matt Derrick of Chiefs Digest. I am not as enthused about Jarvis Landry as I would be Allen Robinson, and I know Odell Beckham Jr. obviously is coming off the ACL tear in the Super Bowl, but I'd be more excited about him at least healthy. There are lots of different elements here. Juju as a long-term fit, et cetera, et cetera. What the Chiefs absolutely should be doing is getting on a conference call with each and every one of these agents who have a free agent wide receiver right now. They're not going to sign all of them, but if they think there is a small margin between a Jarvis Landry and an Allen Robinson or a Juju or whoever else, it does make total sense to get yourself a price range for all of them. If Jarvis Landry comes in at a great price, then all of a sudden that's a great addition and they can continue to add elsewhere. If Juju wants a 4-year, $80 million deal, it's probably not going to be the one that works out. That's okay. It just, makes waiting harder because none of us are very patient on tampering day. We'll see what Matt Derrick thinks next.
You are listening to Almost Entirely Sports with Joshua Brisco on Sports.
Center.
I'm Jim Baskell, NBA on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. Third quarter just underway in Philadelphia. Joel Embiid and the Sixers home to Nikola Jokic and the Nuggets. It's also on ESPN. They lead at 58-53. Philly led by as many as 19. Denver closed the half on an 18-4 run. They've just drawn within 3. Nikola Jokic, 15.6 rebounds, 5 assists, 2 steals. Joel Embiid, 16 points and a pair of boards. Draymond Green set to return for the Warriors tonight against the Wizards. This after missing 2 months with a lower back injury. Bucks Jazz tonight. Brooke Lopez returns for the defending NBA champs. First day teams in the NFL can talk with free agents, and quite a few big money deals have been struck. The Jaguars, the biggest of them all in terms of getting busy, adding a slew of players, including 5-time Pro Bowl guard Brandon Scherf, wide receiver Christian Kirk, fellow wideout Zay Jones, and tight end Evan Ingram among their pickups. The Chargers giving former Patriots cornerback J.C. Jackson. It's a 5-year, $82.5 million deal, 40 of which is guaranteed. Fellow cornerback Carlton Davis remaining with the Bucs for 3 years, $45 million. Mitch Trubisky gets a shot to start at quarterback for the Steelers. Agrees to terms on a 2-year deal. Keep up with all the latest moves around the NFL on ESPN.com. Panthers Saints meeting tonight with Texans quarterback Deshaun Watson, a precursor to a potential trade. Houston declined the Colts attempt to speak with Watson. Baseball, the A's trading first baseman Matt Olson to Atlanta for 4 prospects, including the Braves' top 2 in their system. That means Freddie Freeman will depart via free agency after winning a World Series.
Hey, it's Greeny, and Tuesday, the busiest sports week of the year, continues as we break down your brackets and get you ready for full-fledged football free agency. It's Greeny, starting 10 a.m. Eastern on ESPN Radio and ESPN+.
This is Almost Entirely Sports with Joshua Brisco.
If you don't make your cheek pink, you're not staying awake.
Exactly.
On Sports Radio 810 WHB.
That liner gets me every time. As does this. We have the breaking news. Rudy, prepare the breaking news. The Kansas City Chiefs, this is not a bit. I don't even know if Matt Derrick knows this yet. The Kansas City Chiefs have brought back their first free agent of this class. Aaron Wilson tweets it first. Fullback Michael Burton is re-signing with the Kansas City Chiefs per a league source. The wiener is back. The sausage patty. The bacon. The Baconator. The son of Baconator. Some form of meat product has returned. Matt Derrick, your thoughts on how this changes the scape of the entire landscape of the NFL. Michael Burton is back.
Clearly, this was the free agency move that Chiefs fans have been waiting for all day, right?
Yes, all offseason, really.
You got up this morning at 6 o'clock,
Yep.
hitting the refresh on Twitter all day long, hoping to make sure that Michael Burton remains in the fold. You have been rewarded.
I'm just a little Schefter, okay? I mean, I can't believe he let a scoop like this get away.
This is basically Tom Brady unretiring. I mean, this is the second biggest news story of the week at absolute least. Was there any doubt in your mind that Michael Burton would be back? Because this is a conversation that I've already texted Seth about. He was like, you know what? I don't think it's worth the roster spot. And I said I would bet maybe my literal life that Michael Burton would be back.
Oh yeah, this was I would have put this. I had this down as 99%. There was no doubt. I mean, Andy Reid loves a fullback. He's a good special teams player.
Yeah.
You know, if Andy Reid and Dave Tobe are going to check the box for the player's coming back.
Yeah. Yeah, he played something like I don't know, 10% of the Chiefs' offensive snaps. Didn't matter. There's this Dave Tobe guy and an Andy Reid position. It just felt like, this one for me is right there with Orlando Brown and Dan Sorensen, which are all three would make me pass out unconscious if they weren't back.
I'm not sure I'm going to sign off on that one with you, but
I wondered if I could hook you in with that one. I wondered if you might give me a little hesitation. You think the Dirty Dan era is over? You fool. You, Matt, you idiot. You don't think Dan Sorensen's going to be back this year, please.
It's not 99. He's not 99% in my book.
Yeah, it's 100%.
No, not even 100%.
98 at minimum.
No, 71.
All right, fair enough.
That's too high.
Yeah. All right, fair enough. I am a little curious if you expected there to be anything concrete today before literally 8 p.m. I'll sort through some of the reports we've seen here and there, but whenever you started refreshing and presumably just staring deep into TweetDeck at 11 a.m. today, did you expect either a signing or a departure to have happened over the first 9 hours of free agency?
You know what? Probably not. I mean, I this game day, honestly, with somewhat how I expected. I mean, if I thought that the Chiefs were going to be in the news today with anything whatsoever, I thought it would be, maybe with a little bit more hard confirmation on some of their exclusive rights free agents that they're, or even restricted players that maybe they've offered a tender to. I guess Burton would fit in that category of at least signing one of their own guys. But I didn't expect the Chiefs to be making that signing today. I wasn't certain that any of their free agents would be going anywhere today. Because today is overpay day, and this was a great example of overpay day. After today, the signing should start to get a little bit more into normalcy. We shouldn't be seeing $21 million for slightly above average wide receivers. So it should, and because the Chiefs don't have anybody that I'd overpay for. Yeah. If I'm another team, and there's nobody on that the Chiefs are trying to bring back that I would ever pay for, and they can't afford to overpay for anybody else's free agents. So this was always going to be a quiet day for them.
One thing that I also, I guess, wasn't really expecting that feels like it maybe gained a little bit of steam. I'm curious to see where you think this actually lands in terms of likelihood. But it seems like there is at least a little smoke around the Chiefs really working to restructure Frank Clark's contract. I kind of went through all the math in the first hour of, the $6.8 million dead hits that would come this year and next year if it was a post-June 1st cut, that it would be the full 13.6 if he was cut right now, and the various different ways that money could work around. So assuming at least a baseline knowledge of the financials, what do you think the likelihood is there that Clark might be back?
For one, I never expected any news on Frank Clark yet, because, if the Chiefs are going to part ways with Frank Clark, that's going to be a post-New Year's Day, New League Year Day event, because if they're going to do it, you probably want to make it a post-June 1 designation. That's nothing you can do now. You got to wait until Wednesday to be able to do that. And it certainly has seemed like the last couple of weeks that the Chiefs were going to make an offer to Frank Clark's people about keeping him. Now, I'm expecting that to be a pretty low-ball offer. I don't think it's going to be anywhere close to what he was be scheduled to make this year, which was, to take off the top of my head, like $19 million, I think, was the base salary. That wasn't going to be what was the offer. It was going to stick around. It was going to be a lot lower than that. I would expect it to have had quite a few incentives, whether those were performance-related or per-game bonuses. I expect it to be something in that range. It doesn't appear at this point that, Clark's people have rejected it out of hand, so there's at least some negotiation going along. And as Brett Veach told me at the Combine, if it's close, it could get done, but I still think it's probably in that it's not impossible, but a long shot. It could still get done, but I always got the sense all along that if the restructure could work at the right price, that Clark wanted to stay, and the Chiefs were not opposed to bringing him back.
Do you say probably be kind of a lowball offer? What I'm looking at is if it was a flat $6.8 million for the simplicity of the dead cap hit, which would be a $12 million pay cut for him to take. Again, though, he's not going to see that $19 million anyway. But just with the way that the bonuses and everything are all put around there, with none of his big numbers there being guaranteed in any way, shape, or form. If they gave him a $6.8 million sort of 1 year new deal there, it would be basically the same as cutting him at a post June 1st hit. It would be the same as cutting him now, but you would get that money now and then have a little extra space. No, I think I've got that wrong. I think it would be the post June 1st number, because you would free up more of that space. You would still have the 6.8 next year, but that 6.8 number I don't think can be moved at any point. It's already been paid. It's all prorated. Maybe you could stretch it out if you wanted to re-prorate that. I don't know, over some void years or something. But when you say low ball, do you have a range in mind, or are we just thinking generally speaking, against the rest of the market.
Yeah, and you've laid it out right. I mean, there is $13.6 million in dead money for Frank Clark.
Right.
And if you're the Chiefs, you can either take it all this year, which they can't afford to do, or you can break it up 6.8 this year, 6.8 next year. There's no moving that. I mean, that's just the number. Hey, there is a scenario where, hey, you could offer Frank Clark a vet minimum base, which would be, under $1 million. So that would bring his cap number technically to 13.8. Or no, excuse me, 7.8 for this year.
Right.
You could bring it down significantly, but I don't think that the Chiefs could probably get along that far down.
Right.
I mean, $19 million to $1 million, that's a pretty big pay cut. Frank Clark would probably be willing to take his chances elsewhere for that number.
Sure.
But could the Chiefs whittle him down to, I don't know, say 3.5 plus, maybe a couple of million and sacks incentives, maybe a couple of million in per game bonuses, where maybe he could earn his way back up to $5 or $6 million. It's possible. I mean, remember when they did a restructure with Sammy Watkins, it was kind of based along those ways that they offered him a deal that if he met all of his incentives, he could have gotten the money that he would have been getting originally. Now, I don't know if that deal's there for Frank Clark because I think there's a few more question marks with him, and there's been a few more issues. But there's no way that the Chiefs can afford to offer him a deal that's going to let him get the whole $19 million base that he was set to make this year. But that $19 million base has sailed. He's not getting that from Kansas City or anybody else.
Right.
So there's a number. I mean, hey, if I'm the Chiefs and I whittle it down to, say, 6, I might do that right now because I don't know that there's somebody else out there you can pay $6 million that's going to give you $6 million worth of production that Frank Clark can give you for that.
And in a weird way, that $6 million would not be spendable until after June 1st, when it's not as helpful as it would be right now anyway. So even as a bit of a Frank Clark agnostic, I think that 6 number seems intriguing, even to me. Again, maybe not the world's biggest fan of that idea in a vacuum. It's not in a vacuum. You have lots of fun salary cap math to do and everything.
But, even if you did, even if you whittled his base number from 19 to 6, that alone still gives you, as the Chiefs, all the money that you need for day one of the league new year. That would at least get you to where you need to start. Now, there's more moves you can make and free up a lot more space, but that would be just one move that gets you there. And like you said, if you decide to part with Frank Clark, you don't see that savings until June 1, so it's not like you can go out there and start spending.
Right. I think there's a logic to that. Let's talk about the receivers, because there was just the report, I think it was Schefter a couple minutes ago, saying the Saints and Chiefs are the 2 teams most in on Jarvis Landry. There's some reporting earlier that the Chiefs are in on Allen Robinson. We've obviously heard Juju Smith-Schuster connections for a long time. Haven't heard much on the Odell Beckham front post-Super Bowl. Obviously, the ACL there changes his timeline. But we've heard the Chiefs be around a lot of these receivers. Do you think any one of them stands above the rest, or right now are the Chiefs sort of playing that game where they are going to wait around and see which one of them might be of value?
I think playing a game is a pretty good line to use right there, because I certainly think that's what's being done, and I'm not sure it's the Chiefs that are playing the game. Because I would say right now, if you are an NFL free agent wide receiver and your name has not been mentioned on the NFL Network as being connected to the Chiefs, you probably just need to retire or quit.
Right, or fire your agent at least.
Fire your agent for sure. Because if your agent is not calling, Ian Rappaport and saying, "Hey, Chiefs are interested in our guy." The Chiefs are the stalking horse being used for pretty much every receiver that's out there. You mentioned the Chiefs are interested in your guy, and suddenly you're going to get some more teams interested, because I think in part that's what agents do. They try and create the best value, and frankly, the best thing you can do for your player as an agent right now is to say that the Chiefs are interested in you as a receiver.
Yep.
It's the same thing that we've seen for years. Like if you're a defensive back, or defensive lineman, the Ravens are interested.
Yes.
All of a sudden your price goes up.
Yes.
Your price goes up $3 million a year. That's what you do. But at the same time, I do think that the Chiefs are interested. I don't know how much validity there is to some of those names, especially ones that don't seem to make a lot of sense, like Allen Robinson. Hey, Juju Smith-Schuster is probably going to be the kind of next player that we seem to be linked to the Chiefs repeatedly until he gets into Kansas City.
Mm-hmm.
So that just seems to be where he's at in his career. The Jarvis Landry thing is interesting because that's a guy that, if the stories you hear are true, that this is a guy who wants to play for a contender, that money is not necessarily the biggest obstacle, that he's willing to, play with some people.
Mm-hmm.
That is doable because I still say that the biggest obstacle to the Chiefs landing a big name receiver of any sort is that you've got to come in and be willing to be the number 3 guy.
Mm.
And Landry, by all accounts, from what you hear, sounds like he might be willing to be that guy. I don't have any reason to believe that's going to get done, but I still think that's going to be the biggest obstacle to the Chiefs. And anytime you hear the word wide receiver, is that they're going to be willing to come in and say that they know that, hey, Hill and Kelsey are going to get one more ball than you.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of guys who won't settle for that.
Specifically, Landry is a little bit interesting to me in a way that is maybe you can hear the lack of excitement in my voice. And here again, I want to make sure this is a precursor to all these conversations. The value on all of this is super duper important. If Jarvis Landry is willing to take a legit lower value to come be a third option and catch passes from Patrick Mahomes and try to win something, whole game is different. I'm not saying that they shouldn't take Jarvis Landry on like a wandering wide receiver just looking for a competent quarterback. But I also would not. I don't think I'd be thrilled if the Chiefs had to pay market value for Jarvis Landry, and I think where that's coming from me, and I'm really kind of thinking out loud on this one. But I'm in this spot of, is that the type of receiver that would add something new to this Chiefs offense? Because I don't know. Travis Kelce does so much in that 3 to 7 yard range or whatever that I don't know that anyone else in the sport does better than he does, and I'm not sure if Jarvis Landry, particularly at this point in his career, adds another real element there. But I don't know. Maybe I'm missing it. Maybe he does.
No, and I think once again, I pick up on the words market value because I think you kind of hit on it there. What is the market value for Jarvis Landry right now? I mean, he's going to be 30 years old.
Mm-hmm.
He's a couple years removed from a 1,000-yard season. It's not like he has been a year in and year out 1,000-yard guy.
Mm-hmm. I
mean, this is not someone as good of a player as he is, and by all accounts, as good of a teammate as he is, and all these things. He's not somebody that I'm going to plonk down and say he's a $20 million player.
Right.
At this point.
Right.
And I mean, and if that's the cost, no, check out on that.
Mm-hmm.
Especially because if all accounts are correct, and you're trying to make Tyreek Hill a $20 million receiver, you're certainly not going to add another one. Yeah. So, and last year when the Chiefs were talking with, Juju Smith-Schuster, I mean, it seemed like, and there at the end, Sammy Watkins was in this category once they had to start paying Tyreek, that, you're probably looking more in like the 8 to 12 million range tops.
Yeah.
And, hey, if Jarvis Landry is willing to talk about that kind of money, sign me up. I mean, I think that's a good move. I don't see an Allen Robinson coming to Kansas City to be number 3 for $8 million.
Right.
There's a lot of other players that don't fit into that as well. I mean, and Juju, I think, probably would fit into that. I mean, there are a few others. I was really surprised. I mean, of players who signed today, Cedric Wilson was the guy that I thought really signed below market value, especially after what we saw Christian Kirk got. If I was the Chiefs, that might have been a guy I was a bit of interested in, but that ship has sailed.
He's an interesting one because he's right below that line, I think, where most people would know who you are. That the Cowboys can probably account for 4 guys at a time of Amari Cooper and CeeDee Lamb and Michael Gallup. Everybody kind of knows. Maybe it's at 3 among the actual pass catchers. Cedric Wilson kind of interesting a little below that line maybe for what most people know, but he ends up in Miami. So like you said, ship has sailed, but that would have been kind of interesting. What about the guys that are currently floating out there, potentially leaving the Chiefs? Does anything change with you specifically on Charvarius Ward right now after seeing the couple of cornerback deals we saw today?
I mean, conventional wisdom would say that if Charvarius had a big offer today, now would have been the day to sign it, because I don't think that the deals that are coming after this, like we talked about, are going to be as lucrative. But that said, the market is kind of weird, and Jackson didn't do anybody. I think any players great favors with signing what I think was probably a below market deal for what he got from the Chargers. On a day when Christian Kirk just absolutely resets the wide receiver market, and then Jackson could have really blown up the cornerback market, but I felt like he maybe signed a little bit below market. I mean that. There's no way I'm looking at it that I say that Charvarius Ward should be getting more than Jackson got.
Right.
So at that point, it makes it a little bit more interesting for Ward. I am curious to see what's out there. I mean, I would absolutely think that he's one of the guys that gets signed in the next wave. I know traditionally you would say that the first wave of free agency is really through Wednesday, but I kind of divided up that I think day one is its own wave. And now, after everybody goes to bed tonight, wakes up tomorrow, it's wave two.
Right.
And Ward, I think, should certainly be in that category. I think it's going to be tough for the Chiefs to keep it because I think there's going to be somebody out there offering more money than the Chiefs can afford. And I still think in the category that if the Chiefs really wanted to keep Charvarius Ward, time to sign him was a year ago.
Yep.
And they didn't get it done. And once they didn't get it done, I think they were saying goodbye to Charvarius Ward.
Is that also ultimately true about Tyrann Mathieu? That's right. We're back for another edition of Matt Gives Us a Percentage Chance that Tyrann Mathieu is a Kansas City Chief in 2022. Da, 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 da. Here's your percentages so far from this game. I've kept records this year. February 15th, Matt said was 50-50. February 21st, Matt said was 50% again, but then was bullied into 49.9% each direction with a 0.2% chance that he leaves for Jeopardy. On March 7th, you said 11% chance that he stays, and even that felt too high. What about today, the first day of legal tampering, March 14th?
I said 11% last time.
You said 11% last time, and even that felt too high to you.
Too high? Yeah, I think I will drop down to 10. I mean, it's still not out of the realm of possibility, but I don't know. I find it a little bit peculiar that there wasn't a little bit more smoke with Tyrann around the league, and maybe that's indicative of some of the scuttlebutt that we were getting heading into free agency, that maybe there wasn't going to be some of the offers out there that Matthew thought might be out there. Let's see. But I've been a little surprised how quiet it's been, and if the Chiefs do get something done with Tyrann, I mean, I still think it's not likely to happen before the beginning of the new league year. I mean, I think that there's still other things that have to happen first. I think that and I think that's consistent with what the Chiefs have said, that they want him, but, I think that obviously they need to figure out Frank Clark's deal. They got to, kind of decide a little bit about what's going to happen with Orlando Brown, if it's definitely, going to be playing under the tag, or if there's actually a chance for a long-term deal. They've got to do the paperwork on probably restructuring Mahomes, maybe Chris Jones to move some money around. I think you need to get Tyreek Hill's deal done. Those are all the things that I think probably have to happen before the Chiefs can get something done with Tyrann. And that's why I still think that, that window probably makes it very likely that another team's going to be able to sneak in and get something done.
I mean, going through the list that way, I think is pretty interesting, because I imagine that you also think, to at least some extent, that's going to prevent them from doing anything terribly splashy in the next couple of days too, right? I mean, in terms of new guys other than everything you just laid out there?
I mean, it is very hard right now to do the math on figuring out how the Chiefs can do anything that can be done at 3:00 Central Time Wednesday. Because the reality of it is just that they have other things that have to get done first. And it's not to say that maybe they can't get an agreement in place, because we have seen that before, where at least the team can agree in principle with a player, and the Chiefs they've been in this category before too, where they agree with the principle, but maybe it takes them 3 days to get the sign on the dotted line. That could make sense. I mean, that could be possible. So maybe the Chiefs do surprise us and they sneak in a deal tomorrow, but it's not somebody who ends up actually signing until Friday. That wouldn't surprise me. But even then, I mean, even if they get their kind of wish list done of whittling away and getting some, money freed up, it's not like that they're going to be going out and plumping down $20 million a year on somebody. I mean, they're still going to have to be a little frugal.
So, I mean, I know I'm asking this after you just used the word frugal to describe their strategy, but if they are going to make a splash in some area to some extent, and maybe it's not till a Wednesday at 3, but where would you place your money right now on there being a big move of some sort, and do you have one in mind whenever I say something like a big splash move?
I mean, the one that probably would make the most sense because it's the one player that fills a need that the Chiefs have. It's a player that is not a wide receiver, and has yet still been linked to the Chiefs, and that's the Derrick of Chiefs. That there's enough smoke there to make me think that the Chiefs are definitely interested. I think that would be a tricky one to make work. But if there's any edge rusher, pass rusher out there that you want to make it work with, that's probably the guy. I wouldn't, if I'm the Chiefs, I'm not making a long-term deal. I don't think with probably any of the other edge rushers that are out there, except that one. Mm-hmm. And there seems like there's enough smoke there. It seems like it's a possibility. So yeah, if the Chiefs made a splashy move in the next 48 hours, that's the guy I would expect.
This isn't criticism or whatever. It's just his literal age. I just am curious kind of how you feel about all of this. Zadarius Smith is 29. He's a year older than Frank Clark. He's been more productive than Frank Clark of recent years. Please, nobody hear me miss that. But he's a year older than Frank Clark. And it's funny to me that every time a team cuts a player we've heard of for salary cap reasons, it feels like usually somewhere between, 29 and 31 fan bases go, ooh, well, he just needs to change your scenery. And then we talk about Frank Clark around here like he's a literal bum who's never played football at the professional level. But as soon as he would get cut, I'm sure a Ravens fan somewhere would say, ooh, we could get Frank Clark at a value. I'm not saying that anything is fundamentally broken on that or even that Zadarius Smith is necessarily the same thing. I'm just curious if you think about that at all, the way that the grass is always greener whenever you get a veteran who gets cut for cap reasons.
Yeah, I'm with this with any veteran because, we see the parade of veterans coming to Kansas City over, I would say, the last 3 or 4 years, especially, that fans have been absolutely ecstatic about the moment that they got cut or were made available or anything, that are veterans that are older, and they have, by and large, all come in here and completely and totally disappointed. Whether it's LaShawn McCoy or and any of the others. Josh Gordon. You can pretty much make it not a very good one, but a Pro Bowl team of cast-offs that the Chiefs have picked up the last few years that everybody was really excited about because they were big names that became available, and there was a reason why they were available. Yeah. Now, Zadarius Smith is available because he had a really big cap number, and he's coming off an injury. And he's a little bit different. You look at the rest, and especially compared to the rest of the free agent, edge rusher class right now. Almost all of them are 30 or older.
Right.
Emmanuel Ogbah's not, but Emmanuel Ogbah's off the board now.
Chandler Jones and Von Miller are both 32, and they are at the top of this class.
Exactly. You have to start getting down to, Dexter Fowler is under 30, but I don't know if I would trust Dexter Fowler with anything. He seems to be really good in a contract year, and that's about it. And then Arden Key is young, but I don't think I'm giving $16 million to any of those guys.
Yeah.
And Zadarius Smith might not, he's coming off an injury, might be in a category where you don't have to pay him that much. Or if you do, if you got him on a 1-year prove-it deal, I'd be really tempted in that. Yeah. It doesn't have to be a long-term commitment, or if it is, it could be one of these little maybe 1-year deals that pays a lot of money, but you spread it over a couple of years. You could make it creative. I do think it would be hard to – I would have a hard time arguing, hey, give him 4 years, $64 million. That I would have a hard time doing. But if it's, a little bit more affordable or it's a 1-year prove-it deal, I wouldn't have any problems with that.
I completely forgot about this again. Rudy completely forgot about this again. The Twitch chat remembered, though. Did you sneak a vocab word past us already this segment?
I haven't, and I snuck one by you last week,
yeah.
and I forgot to tell you about it.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, so let's just reset because our next AES, I believe, is going to be next Monday. So hopefully this will stay on our brains. Maybe we even need to be reminded of it right before the segment next week or something. Maybe we both need to be reminded of it, or you, me, and Rudy, all three, where we remember at the beginning of the segment that it's going to eventually come through. But I promise I am typically either too focused or too distracted to be listening that closely.
Well,
and
it's possible that I gave you a word that you just knew, and therefore you didn't think that it was a vocab word. Because last week I do remember, I believe I said that I was here to disabuse you of any notions that I could.
But see, that's got to set off my radar, though. I mean, that I know the word, but that doesn't mean that you don't win the game for getting that one through. You know what I mean? Like, that's a good one still.
So I will come up with, I actually have a note on my desk that I've written on a napkin with a Sharpie.
Fantastic.
That says Joshua Word of the Week.
Fantastic. Okay, we need to restart that. Hold on 1 second. Well, I want to make sure that I want to be as prepared for this as you are. Hey Siri, set a reminder for 7:55 p.m. next Monday for Matt's Word of the Week.
Okay. Your reminder is set for next Monday, 7:55 p.m.
You're on. We'll talk to you then, Matt.
That Siri is a piece of work.
It really is. I also don't like the voice that I've been stuck with, but the previous, original, built-in Siri was getting it got very computery. I feel like it changed sometime in the last several months, and so I went to this one. I don't like it that much.
Hey, Siri, read me Josh's credit card number.
913. That's my phone number, actually. I'm going to read you my phone number instead. These AIs, they don't know what they're talking about.
I was going to say, hey, Siri, can you legally tamper with Josh?
Sorry, that functionality has not been included in the latest iOS update. Get an Android.
It's a shame.
You freak. Wow, Siri, that was very judgy, Siri. I don't love how Siri gave you an attitude there, man. I apologize. I'm going to do some tampering with this phone later.
It's just a matter of the robots taking over. Skynet is becoming self-aware.
I was going to try to give you a vocabulary word, but I couldn't think that quickly on my feet, so I'm going to have to respectfully decline this week's challenge, and I'll be ready for next week's.
We'll both be ready next week. It'll be a whole new league year.
Ooh! Hey, Matt, happy new league year to you and yours in advance, and we'll talk to you soon.
Sounds great, my friend. Take care, everybody.
Have a blessed new league year. We got to do that. That right there might just be the bit for Wednesday, is that we have party poppers at 3 o'clock just in our separate homes. We're all just celebrating together. We need to drop a ball from somewhere. Maybe it's just dropping a football. All right. I appreciate Matt not only for joining us this segment, but for also giving us an entire segment of content for next segment when we all fill out what it's going to mean to celebrate a new league year on Wednesday.
Take the show with you wherever you go. Listen live on the Sports Radio. listening to Almost Entirely Sports.
In case you're wondering if you're listening to the best possible sports media right now, on NFL Network's Players Only show, they're debating if J.J. Watt never played another down, would he still be a Hall of Famer?
With Joshua Brisco.
Are you crazy? Of course he would. And see, that's the thing, man. If you're sitting here going, God, that last segment
How's that even a debate?
That last segment was weird and bad. Well, bleep you. That's your option. Go to NFL Network.
On Sports Radio 810 WHB.
You want a real quick Jags take? We were talking about the Jags before the show. That's how you know that today was a weird day for football. And I think Matt saying, thanks again to Matt Derrick, ChiefsDigest.com, on Twitter at Matt Derrick. Matt saying, that this first day of legal tampering is overpay day. He's right. We got plenty of examples of that. I just told you in the first hour, I feel like I'm just watching my friends outside sledding in the snow, and I just would rather be outside. But the Chiefs didn't do anything until they signed Michael Burton. I get it. But Brett Coleman tweets this out about the Jags, and I think I totally agree with this and also have a secondary take. Are James Harden and DeMarcus Cousins about to fight, Rudy?
Oh, yeah. And James Harden doesn't want none of DeMarcus Cousins.
No.
That's not knocking on James Harden.
No.
That's just you don't mess with DeMarcus.
If you want to fight DeMarcus Cousins, something is wrong with you. Do not want that smoke. You need somebody to come in and pull you away after you get off your one-liner. Yeah, Harden did not escalate. Harden looked him in the face, and DeMarcus Cousins literally laughed at him. Wow, that's disrespectful.
Yeah. Every now and then I just forget that DeMarcus Cousins is a Denver Nugget, and then
awesome.
I remember, and I smile.
Yeah.
Because one, he's a Kentucky guy. So I love Kentucky guys. He's also the first he's the first. He's Cal's first recruit ever.
Really?
It was him and John Wall were the first. They were going to go to Memphis to play for Coach K.
You want John Wall in the Nuggets also?
Oh, man, that'd be pretty cool. Not without salary, but
love with conditions. There's no love at all.
Sometimes
people drift separate directions.
Yeah,
sure.
we change,
sure.
right?
Yeah.
But it's fun having a guy like DeMarcus Cousins on your team.
Tim McMahon just tweeted James Harden and Boogie Cousins were just reminiscing about all the good times they had as Rockets teammates.
I forgot about that moment.
Everyone did.
I think it might have only lasted for a week, but
yeah. Also, the Suns curb stomped the Lakers last night. Just fabulous. Doing it without Chris Paul, did it without Cam Johnson. They scored, 48 or something in the first quarter? Something ridiculous.
Yeah, 48. They hit Shamit hit a three as not a buzzer beater three, but in the final seconds of the quarter.
I missed the first quarter because I was driving back from here to home, and then I got home and turned it on. It was a bloodbath. I watched the rest of the game. I was watching into the fourth quarter. I could feel Renee sitting on what has become her couch. We basically have separate couches now. That's where we're at.
Devin Booker, I understand what players have separated themselves.
What just happened? What did you just woof
Both
at?
Highlands just hit two NBA range on an NBA court threes, 5 feet behind the 3-point line back.
You just got to share that with the audience. They don't know what we're woofing at.
But point me in here. They're about to show a replay for you. The NBA's we know who's going to be the MVP.
They're not showing a replay, and so they're showing the Ben Franklin statue.
Shouts to the best president we've ever had. Love him. We know who the NBA final or MVPs are likely going to be, right? And the way Devin Booker just leads that, because that was Devin Booker last night. He was incredible. He at multiple times he's running point guard. He's not a point guard, and he's running the point. And they scored 48 in the first quarter with him largely running point.
Yeah, I love it. I could
love Devin Booker.
I could feel Renee from her couch playing on her phone. I do not remember. Doesn't come up. Where she had to be thinking, isn't this game over? It's like 30. It's like a 30-point game. There's 4 minutes left. What I didn't even have to explain to her was that I had a lot of years spent watching
the
reverse of this and getting no sympathy from anyone and just being left alone on that lonely road. The Suns are giving it back right now.
You got to enjoy it while you can. Because the Suns are going to be good, I think,
forever.
For
the rest of time.
Period of time.
Those days are gone. Those broken days of
But right now,
broken memories past.
It's different right now, though. Because they're not just good, they might be the best. And you gotta enjoy that.
My headphones cut out. Did you say it sounded like you said might be the best,
you know what, honestly,
and that doesn't.
Honestly, they are. Like they're the best team in the NBA.
Thank you. Was that so hard?
No, because they're great.
Because they're the best. Love this Suns team.
I would give so much for Devin Booker.
Can't have him.
And why am I drawing a mind blank?
You can't have Mikal Bridges either.
Mikal Bridges.
I know how much you love Mikal Bridges.
I would literally trade every player on the Nuggets except for Jokic for those two.
Got to include Jokic, and then you can maybe get one of them. And by one of them, I mean you can have Landry Shamet.
I do like Landry. Wichita kid.
No, I know.
KC kid played at Wichita State.
There's my Wichita State Phoenix Suns connection that I've been grasping at straws for years as well. Just really fabulous. Here's my real quick full circle Jags take before we both got distracted by our basketball teams being pretty good. Brett Coleman tweeted, "Not gonna lie, a Jags receiving core of Marvin Jones, Zay Jones, Laviska Shenault, Christian Kirk, Jamal Agnew, and Evan Ingram still feels like it's in the bottom third of the AFC, even though it probably costs more than every other team in the conference." And I 100% understand that and think I would agree with that, I think. Like that is a mid at best group of pass catchers.
I would love to take all those pass catchers and put them like around Tyreek Hill.
Right.
Because Marvin Jones and Christian Kirk are great. Like they're very good in their roles. But that they're lacking the Tyreek Hill,
the one with the bullet.
Yeah,
exactly. And someone else makes the point they pretty much they all come off the books after 2023. Got a couple years. Here's my little timeout, as I've apparently talked about the Jags 3 separate times so far tonight.
Maybe the Chiefs trade like a 6 for Laviska. Who says no? I mean, the Jags probably would, but. But maybe they would.
There's a lot of dudes on that depth chart right now. They're all just sort of the same. I'm afraid they're all the same range. I mean,
the guy running their team might be too busy with Fulham or something. I don't know.
Here's my thing on the Jags here real quick. I don't think these are a bunch of good investments. I do not think that they're ultimately a very good unit there. But also, you and the Jets both have to figure out what your quarterback is. And so I kind of get overpaying for Evan Ingram and Christian Kirk today, because you need Trevor Lawrence to have dudes to throw to who are going to be in the right spot. I would rather my young quarterback have Tyreek Hill and then only 2 of these guys instead of all 6 of these kind of receivers. But you've got to give them something to work with to figure out if you got the quarterback right. So, I don't know. I don't love what they did, but I do kind of get it. And also, just to make it incredibly clear, would not wish the Jags last 24 hours on the Chiefs or any stretch of time ever. 24 years. I would not, none of it. I don't want anything Jaguars anywhere near the Chiefs.
Except for maybe that boat era.
Yeah, or just like They have a pool in a club box or something now. I think they did something wacky.
I think they have a pool in their stadium.
I think they do.
Pretty sure they do.
Some real early 2000s Arizona Diamondbacks bleep they're doing out there, and I love it. It's tradition. It's a real second-rate franchise thing to do, is to put a pool in your stadium. Anyway, I thought that was a little bit interesting. I also have promised you a Chargers take. Here's a radio tease. Are the Los Angeles Chargers neck and neck with the Chiefs after the start of this offseason? Does it matter? Josh's take on the Los Angeles Chargers and what they've done to play catch-up with the Chiefs next.
Want more Almost Entirely Sports? Watch the show live on the Sports Radio 810 Facebook page. You're listening to Almost Entirely Sports.
No, I just had Chinese food for lunch, and now I don't feel very good. And it's been 9 hours since I've eaten it, and I feel progressively worse.
With Joshua Brisco.
And I'll magically feel better if you give me 101,000 likes on my latest tweet.
On Sports Radio 810 WHB.
More AFC West news. Can I get the sweeper, Rudy? Ian Rappaport, source. The Broncos agreed to terms with defensive tackle DJ Jones on a 3-year, $30 million deal with $20 million fully guaranteed. Big addition.
At least the Raiders aren't doing much.
I tell you what, man, the Chiefs and Raiders right now are just playing. They're just playing go fish with each other off to the side of the playground. It feels like.
Now, do we think that there's a chance that they forgot about daylight savings? Is maybe that the cause of all this? The Chiefs don't Veach and whoever's running the Raiders these days, McDaniels, I guess, just don't know what day or time it is.
Ooh, I think you got to it at the end there because, daylight savings, that's only 1 hour. But you know what day is it? What time is it? You know what? The start of the legal tampering? Start of the new league year?
Maybe Spags is the new GM and we just didn't know about it.
Whoa.
Maybe he's a secret GM.
Whoa, Shadow GM.
Shadow.
Steve Spag Shadow. There it is. Steve Spag Shadow. I just needed to talk through it for a second. I knew you guys would give me the freedom to get there. I appreciate that. So here's my Chargers take. And I'm gonna repeat this one a few times. I'm not gonna repeat myself right now, but I can feel that I'm gonna be saying this up through training camp. We got to allow some space for believing that the Los Angeles Chargers are in a really good spot right now. A super talented roster and Justin Herbert nearing the end of his rookie deal. We have to allow ourselves to say that in Kansas City while also acknowledging that the Chargers are clearly cursed by an old god who will never allow them to win anything meaningful. It can be both. It actually is both. I have to be able to tell you that I actually think, and Matt Verderam put this similarly in a tweet that I thought was worthwhile. You got to acknowledge that this is going to be the most difficult division that Patrick Mahomes has played in. Not a question to be had here. There's no reason to push back on that. There's no point in denying that this is the best the AFC West, I think, has ever been. It might end up being one of the craziest, most talented, most incredible divisions in the history of the NFL. Doesn't mean Patrick Mahomes can't win it, but also there's no guarantee that the Chiefs will. Like this is a dumb thought experiment on some level, but if the Chiefs did not add anyone of consequence, if all they did was sign some undrafted free agents and maybe bring back a couple vets of their own to just straight up fill out the roster, but their cap hits need to stay where they were, maybe Frank Clark sticks around, whatever. But if everybody had to go play games today, the Chiefs would be severely underhanded and would actually not be favored in the AFC West. Chargers have more impact guys locked up now, I think. Obviously, again, there's a whole free agency period, an entire draft, all of that, a lot of time for this to change. But right now, we might as well go ahead and acknowledge that the Chargers, while being objectively hilarious for years now, deserve a little bit of respect for what this division has become, for what they have done so far. Here's my honest answer, to my honest truth of this. I love what the Chargers have done strategically. They've picked some defensive guys, real playmakers, to pay to get after the quarterback and to help cover wide receivers like Tyreek Hill. They've done it while getting the quarterback position objectively correct and still having the rookie deal. They might fall off once they pay Justin Herbert, but they don't have to do that yet. Their best window is going to be this year and next year in all likelihood. The Chiefs' best, most wide open window were these last couple of years before Mahomes' contract did start inflating things. That doesn't mean the Chiefs are never going to win again. But it does mean that the Chargers are having their best odds and their best sort of alignment in this division right now. They even have a better spot organizationally than the Broncos do with Russell Wilson. He's going to be paid like a veteran quarterback who's already won a bunch. But the division as a whole is in an incredible place where the laughingstock punchline Raiders were a playoff team last year. The AFC West is incredible, and it's going to be tough for the Chiefs. You can pick them. You probably should. I'm planning on it, but it doesn't mean you should overlook them. Bracketology with Chloe next.
You're listening to Almost Entirely Sports with Joshua Brisco on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Hi, I'm Fred Ramsey. And I'm Mark Tobin. Hey, folks.
This is Almost Entirely Sports with Joshua Brisco.
Oh, no. His measurables.
On Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Maybe the most anticipated segment in Almost Entirely Sports' annual recurring segment industry, and it really is an industry, has arrived. Yes, you've been waiting through an entire college basketball regular season, entire football season. So many things have come and gone over the last 365 days, but one thing that this show has had continuously, except for when COVID took it from us, one guiding light, is that whenever March comes around and March Madness time presents itself, we have one bracketologist who matters to this show. If you want to compete, you can go to 810WHB.com/brackets. I will go through the process of making sure you are also competing against our chief senior bracketologist here tonight on Almost Entirely Sports. I also think the ESPN group has recreated itself already, so we'll sort all those out, and I'll tweet out the links over the next day or two, as we are now joined by Almost Entirely Sports Chief Senior Bracketologist Correspondent Chloe Brisco. Chloe, I appreciate you taking some time to come out of your bracketology bunker. I know you've just been watching tape, picking games for days at this point, even though the bracket only came out yesterday. Really appreciate you making some time for us here tonight.
Yep, thank you. I'm excited to be here.
You sound excited to be here. This is, I think, maybe,
Yeah.
I mean, this is what, year 3 or 4 for you at this point, I think? Maybe year 4, bracket 3, potentially?
Yeah, I believe so, yeah.
Might be 5. Well, you sound confident. You sound ready to go. First, can we get some credentials from you? Could you tell people, why you're a college basketball expert, how old you are, who your favorite team is, anything that feels pertinent to you?
So my favorite team is KU, and
okay.
I mean, I think it's all about the mascots for me, you know?
Yeah.
You got to do all that scientific stuff.
Yeah.
And, yeah, I'm 12 years old, so I'm
Okay.
almost 13. Yeah.
I'll say, wait, aren't you 13? I was going to say, I don't feel like you're 12 anymore.
I'm almost 13.
You're almost 13. Oh, yeah, that's
Yeah,
right.
no.
Okay, well, I was just jumping ahead by a little bit. Well, my early birthday present to you is that you're going to help everyone listening win just tons of money by getting this exactly right. Are you ready to fill out your March Madness bracket?
Yes, I am.
Rudy, hit the music. Oh, nothing screams March like this music bed. Chloe, we'll start in the West. We'll start with the 116. We open up with Gonzaga versus Georgia State. Gonzaga, of course, the Bulldogs. Georgia State, some sort of big cat. I'm not sure, but this is. I'm hoping that Rudy's expertise in colleges will also come through on mascots here this week.
I'm going to have to go with Gonzaga. I feel like the Wildcats would probably win in real life against the Bulldogs, but that's a good college, so I'm going to go with that one.
Okay. Georgia State is the Panthers, by the way. I don't know if that changes anything, but also the Bulldog. Both of them go animal logo forward, which I think is a pretty good idea for both of them.
Yeah.
But we'll roll with Gonzaga there. Okay, in the 8-9, we have the Boise State Broncos versus the Memphis Tigers. Very animal-heavy Western region.
I'll have to go with the Tigers. I'm feeling the big Cats with this one.
Okay, I think that's great. Also, our Twitch chat says hi to you, Chloe. So if you'd like to
Hello.
shout out your fans, they're all over this segment every year.
Well, hello, guys.
We have the Yukon Huskies versus the New Mexico State Lobos, I think. Is that right? Or are they the...
New Mexico State are the Aggies.
The
New
Aggies.
Mexico are the Lobos.
I knew I was going to get one of these wrong. Okay, so we've got Huskies versus Aggies, Yukon versus New Mexico State.
I'm going to go with the Huskies. I love Huskies.
Yeah, it's just a good dog, a good mascot, a good logo. This has been very animal heavy. Great news here. The Arkansas Razorbacks, big angry pig logo for them, versus Vermont, who is some other sort. The Catamounts, another big cat. Razorbacks versus Catamounts is the matchup.
A catamount's kind of a cougar.
Okay.
Yeah, I like Cougars, but I'm going to go with the Razorbacks with this one, I feel like.
Okay, Razorbacks advance. Now here we have one of, I know you know about this because you're a college basketball expert, but you have the first four where two teams play each other for the chance to play the next team. And in this case, it's Rutgers versus Notre Dame, and then they will go on to play Alabama, the Crimson Tide. They've got a mascot, an elephant mascot, but they go by Crimson Tide. Do you like the combo of Rutgers, Notre Dame, Fighting Irish, and
Scarlet Knights?
Scarlet Knights. Wow, good. Okay. Scarlet Knights and Fighting Irish, winner of that game versus the Crimson Tide. Do you follow that? A lot of colors.
Oh, kind of. The elephants.
Great. Okay, perfect. No, that's perfect. That's great.
Roll Tide.
Alabama advances. Then we have the Texas Tech Red Raiders versus the Bobcats of Montana State. Montana State Bobcats, Texas Tech Red Raiders.
I'll go with Texas Tech Red Raiders.
Red Raiders advance.
Yeah, isn't that where Mahomes went to college?
It absolutely is. I was not going to volunteer that information to you, but I was curious if you'd know it. Patrick Mahomes' school advances out of the first round. Michigan State Spartans versus the Davidson Wildcats. A lot of Wildcats in this year's tournament.
Yeah, let's go with the Wildcats with this one.
We're going to get Wildcats versus Wildcats at some point, I bet. We got a long ways to go, but we'll get there eventually. Next up, the 2:15 here, the Duke Blue Devils versus Cal State Fullerton. They're the Titans.
Let's go with the Blue Devils for this one.
Blue Devils advance. I'm going to go ahead and just clear us all through the region here. So we'll go Gonzaga Bulldogs versus Memphis Tigers.
Yep.
Who do you like there, Bulldogs or Tigers?
I'm going to go with the Bulldogs.
Okay, Gonzaga advances again. Then we have UConn versus Arkansas. That's Huskies versus Razorbacks.
I'm going to go with the Huskies.
Huskies advance. Okay, then we have the Alabama Crimson Tide versus the Texas Tech Red Raiders. A very red matchup.
Yeah, Texas Tech.
Okay, Texas Tech advances. So far, our brackets look really similar, Chloe, and I don't know. I mean, I guess that's good because you're the expert, so I'm feeling pretty good about that. And then,
bad news for her, obviously.
That's
because,
right. She's gonna have to zag on him here eventually because you're right. This Chloe and I will not be in lockstep much longer because she's better at this than I am. Then we have the Duke Blue Devils versus the Davidson Wildcats. Who do you like there?
Let's go with the Blue Devils.
Blue Devils advance. Now we have a real dogfight here: Gonzaga Bulldogs versus UConn Huskies.
Still gonna go with the Huskies.
The Huskies advance. I'm pretty sure you had the Huskies winning it all last year. I was reviewing last year's performance where you did, by the way, I don't know if you remember this, Chloe, you did beat Beards last year, which is awesome. So if it works, it works. And then we have Texas Tech versus Duke, Red Raiders versus Blue Devils. Red or blue?
I think, let's go with the Red Raiders.
Okay, and then the final matchup here to get to the Final Four, the UConn Huskies versus the Texas Tech Red Raiders.
Yeah, just because of Mahomes, let's go with the Red Raiders.
Wow, Texas Tech to the Final Four. I love this pick. I'm sure Patrick Mahomes would as well. I'm sure he's listening. Okay, so Texas Tech, your Final Four team out of the region. A real upset over UConn there, just purely on your belief in the Huskies, but I really appreciate the breakdown there. We'll go now down to the Eastern region. We have the Baylor Bears going up against Norfolk State. They are the Spartans. Bears or Spartans?
Bears.
Bears advance. Got to be the Bears, right?
Mm-hmm.
How about the North Carolina Tar Heels versus Marquette? They're the Golden Eagles.
Oh, definitely the Golden Eagles.
Good. You like that one in terms of mascot names, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Sounded like you're a big fan. Okay, we have then the St. Mary's Gales, which I don't know where that actually comes from now that I think about it. Something religious in nature, I believe, some sort of position. Rudy is doing the Googling. And then we have another one of those play-in games of Wyoming versus Indiana. Wyoming is the Broncos, I believe. And then Indiana is, of course, the Hoosiers. This is a bunch of sort of oblique mascots. What do you have there, Rudy, in terms of the research?
So I'm seeing a Gale is a Scottish Highlander.
Well, now what does that mean? What is this
Or
guy? Is that a
you know,
dog?
like a like a person, like a Celtic.
okay.
You know,
Yeah,
Somebody,
okay.
they spoke Gaelic in it's like old Scottish, I guess,
Sure.
language.
Okay. So you want to go with the Gales or the winner of Wyoming versus Indiana, which is some form of horse and Hoosiers?
Let's go with the Gales for the fun of it.
Okay, the Gales advance. And then we have the UCLA Bruins against Akron. They are the Zips. I believe their logo is a kangaroo, though, right?
Correct, yes.
So a
Zippy
zip,
the kangaroo.
the zip is represented by a kangaroo there, although it's not in their primary logo. So we go Akron Zips versus whoever else I said a second ago. UCLA Bruins, which is a bear.
Yeah, let's go with the Zip.
Okay, the Zips upset UCLA.
I was weirdly right about Zippy being its name.
I
threw
believe
it out
you.
there.
I believed you 100%. Okay, here we have a fun one. We have the Texas Longhorns versus the Virginia Tech Hokies. A lot of their imagery is around like a turkey. Yeah.
Let's go with the Longhorns. Yeah.
Longhorns is one of my favorite mascots in all of college sports. It's very unique. This is also a unique one here. We have the Purdue Boilermakers, like trains and stuff, against Yale, which are also Bulldogs, I believe. It doesn't say here. That's right, isn't it? They're the Yale Bulldogs?
Yes.
Yeah, I know things. I didn't get in, but I know things. So Yale Bulldogs versus the Purdue Boilermakers.
Let's go with the Boilermakers, whatever that is.
Yeah, they help make trains. That's pretty cool.
Oh, okay.
Next up, we have Murray State versus San Francisco. The Racers, Murray State, got a guy riding a horse in their logo. And then the Dons of San Francisco. We go Racers or Dons?
Okay.
We've
let's
lost
go
the
with
plot a little. The Racers advance. Murray State to the next round. Okay. I'm going to have to really double check this one because I see what the logo says. I see the picture in the logo here. It is correct. This is really upset watch for Rudy's team. I'm worried about the answer here, but we have the Kentucky Wildcats against the St. Peter's Peacocks.
Because it's so unique, let's go with the Peacocks.
It's so good. Rudy has fallen out of his chair. Rudy's on the ground. Rudy went to Kentucky. I like Kentucky in this bracket. I want Rudy to be happy. Here's the thing. I didn't know there was a Peacocks in college sports, and I learned that today. It's a good mascot and a good team name.
A 15 seed upsets the 2 seed frequently.
It happens every once in a while, and it's just too bad that it's going to lead to Rudy's early demise, but it just is what it is there.
Well, I can go to sleep sooner, I guess.
Yeah,
I can actually sleep in March.
Yeah, that's true. Let's go Racers Peacocks here, Chloe. Murray State versus St. Peter's.
Peacocks again?
Got to. It's a Cinderella story. What about Longhorns Boilermakers? Longhorns advance. Let's just stick with here to get all these matchups working. Longhorns Peacocks. Now, this is a very bad matchup in real life between these two animals. What about a basketball matchup? Longhorns Peacocks.
Yeah, let's go with the Longhorns in this one.
Okay, the Peacocks run ends there, but an incredible run for 15 seed. I love it. Then we have Baylor versus Marquette again back at the top. That is the Bears versus the Golden Eagles.
I like both of them, but let's go with the Bears.
Okay, Baylor advances. And then St. Mary's versus Akron, Gales versus Zips.
Gales.
Wow, okay, St. Mary's really a good run for them here as the 5 seed. What about Bears Gales?
Bears with this one.
Okay, and then a Big 12 matchup in the Elite 8. Chloe's playing to our audience here. Baylor versus Texas. That's Bears versus Longhorns.
Yeah, let's go with the Longhorns.
Texas advances to the Final Four. I don't know if you did this on purpose or if you even know what you did here, Chloe, but your Final Four. Wait, we don't have to pick this one yet. We'll come back to it. You've got a Texas Tech versus Texas Final Four matchup. What a game that would be. We'll go back up now to the southern region here. We have Arizona. They're the Wildcats going up against, I literally don't remember what this is. Wright State versus Bryant. I don't know their mascots.
Bryant, I believe, are Bears.
Okay, and then Wright State. Let's find out together. They are some sort of dog. Nope, they're the Raiders, but their mascot has a dog on it. I don't know.
The Rowdy Raider.
Is that right? Or is his name Rowdy?
Yeah, well, the mascot is Rowdy Raider.
Okay.
He's a wolf.
It's kind of convoluted. Do we like the Arizona Wildcats, or do we like one of those upsets there, Chloe?
Arizona.
Okay, Arizona advances. I probably could have just asked you that straight up and could have saved us a few minutes there. That one's on me. I'm not very good at hosting radio, but you know this already.
You're new to it.
I'm very new to it all. Seton Hall versus TCU is up next. Seton Hall is the, are they just the Pirates, or do they are, they're just the Pirates. Seton Hall Pirates versus the TCU Horned Frogs. I'll say this, there's not a lot of Pirates in this tournament. Also not a lot of reptiles, though, so this one I could see being a real conflict for you, Chloe.
Oh, okay, so frogs are amphibians, but yeah, I'll go with the frogs.
Tough but fair. Oh, I mean, when you're right, you're right. Nope, good point.
Okay.
That's why you're the expert, Chloe. Sorry, I just had to collect myself a little bit because it was such a good point that you made. Next up, we have Houston versus UAB. Houston are, I think they're more Wildcats. UAB, Dragons.
Oh.
Houston are the Cougars, by the way.
Thank you. Another different big cat. Cougars versus Dragons.
I feel like I should go with Cougars, so I'm going to go with Dragons because I love Dragons.
Look, a 12-15, or excuse me, a 5-12, nothing wrong with that at all for an upset.
I think every year there's a 12 beats a 5.
Has to be. After that, we have the Illinois Illini versus the Chattanooga Mocs, which I think is short for, I know it's a bird. I don't know what it's short for, but it's what their literal name is. It's like a roadrunner or something.
Oh, okay.
Hold on. We got to get our intel right for you here. I can't have you picking until I can properly identify what a mock is. They have Silvio De Sousa. What do you think about Silvio De Sousa? Also, it's a bird, but I can't tell what kind.
Okay. So, what is the pick again?
Well, how do you feel about Silvio De Sousa, first of all? What do you think Silvio De Sousa... real quick, hold on, Rudy, real quick, sorry. Kofi Coburn, Silvio De Sousa in this matchup. Two pretty talented big men. Your thoughts?
Sylvia?
Yeah, so what was your... Thank you, Chloe, that's perfect. What did you say, Rudy?
It's a northern mockingbird.
It's short for mockingbird. Interesting.
Oh,
Okay.
Which is the state bird of Tennessee.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So we have the Mocs, short for mockingbirds, versus the Illini.
Okay, so I'm going to go with the mockingbirds because I think that might be the state bird of Florida, too. I'm not sure.
Oh, interesting. And also because, again, I think Silvio De Sousa really, like you were about to say, really adds another element to this team. I think that's really interesting. Let's go ahead. I hate to put your feet to the fire like this, Chloe. Dragons versus Mocs, round 2 matchup here. This is a bloodbath. Who do you like?
Let's go with the Mocs for this one.
Wow, Chattanooga advances. I love it. And then Wildcats versus Horned Frogs. That's Arizona TCU. Arizona Wildcats, TCU Horned Frogs, a reptile.
Really? Okay.
An amphibian?
Yes.
Oh, a flightless bird.
Oh, what?
A mammal.
Oh, okay. All right. As much as I love the frogs, I'm going to go with Arizona.
Okay, and then what about Arizona Wildcats versus Chattanooga Mocs?
Arizona again, I would say.
Okay. Back to a fresh region of the bracket. We have Colorado State. They're the Rams versus the Michigan Wolverines.
Let's go with the Rams.
Colorado State advances. Then we have the Tennessee Volunteers versus the Longwood Lancers. They've got sort of a horse with a spear is their logo, but they are the Lancers versus the Volunteers.
Okay, let's go with the Lancers for this one.
Tennessee goes down on round 1. What about Rams Lancers?
Rams.
The Rams advance. Okay, we have the Ohio State Buckeyes versus Loyola Chicago. They are the Ramblers, which comes with sort of a wolf
we
mascot.
Have talked about this on the show.
Yes.
Yeah, they are a dog now, essentially.
We did a segment on figuring out why they're the Ramblers. Yeah, that's right. So Buckeyes versus Ramblers, Chloe.
Let's go with whatever Rambler is.
I love it. What about the Villanova Wildcats versus the Delaware Blue Hens?
Delaware sounds cool, but let's go with what was it?
The Wildcats, Villanova Wildcats?
Wildcats.
Okay, Wildcats eat the
every
Blue
Wildcat
Hens.
but mine.
Wow, that's true. Chloe took all the Wildcats so far, except for Rudy's Wildcats, but it's because they're going up against the Peacocks, and it's just a great. I'm thinking about changing that one in my bracket also. Then we have the Ramblers versus Wildcats there. Loyola Chicago versus Villanova.
Wildcats.
And then Wildcats of Villanova versus the Colorado State Rams.
Yeah, let's do Wildcats again.
And the prophecy has been fulfilled. We have right now for your Elite Eight matchup in the Southern region, the Arizona Wildcats versus the Villanova Wildcats.
Okay, so let's go with Villanova.
Wow, I thought Arizona was a lock. The Villanova Wildcats make the Final Four. Wow. Okay, next here we'll go to the Midwest. This is our last region. Then they go Final Four, and then you can go to bed or go back to reading or whatever. What are you reading right now? What book are you currently on?
I actually don't know what I'm reading. I have a bunch of books I'm reading, so I can't remember.
What's your favorite book you've read in the last 2 months?
It's called Tristan Strong Punches a Hole in the Sky. It's a very good book.
Sounds fantastic. We do this segment with Sterling sometimes. We ask him what he's reading, but I never actually read what he suggests, but I might actually take your suggestions. To the Midwest, the number 1 seed, the Kansas Jayhawks, they're going to go up against one of 2 different Texas schools. Is it okay to suggest that you may have KU winning their first-round matchup?
Oh, yeah, it's fine. KU. Definitely.
Okay. Then we have the San Diego State Aztecs versus the Creighton Blue Jays.
Blue Jays. I love Blue Jays.
Well, now what do you love more in the bird division, a real bird or a mythical bird? Jayhawks versus Blue Jays.
Okay, yeah, I'll have to go with the Jayhawks.
Ooh, okay. It's too bad they're not called the Blue Jayhawks. That'd make it a lot easier.
Yeah.
This is a fun one. The Iowa Hawkeyes, not the whole hawk apparently, just the eyes. I'm not sure how that works. The Iowa Hawkeyes versus the Richmond Spiders.
Spiders.
It's kind of a cool one, right?
Yeah.
Kind of like that. Then we have, is Providence the Friars? Is that right? I feel
Correct.
like that's okay. We have the Providence Friars versus the South Dakota State Jackrabbits.
Yeah, let's go with the Jackrabbits.
It's also a fun one, which leads up to Jackrabbits versus Spiders.
Watch them beat KU in football once.
That's a thing that happened.
Let's go with the Spiders.
Okay, the smaller one, the smaller animal advances. Is a spider technically an animal?
Yeah, it's a living thing. I mean, it's not a plant, so yeah, it's an arachnid. So.
Well, it also could be a fungi. Mushrooms are alive, and they're not a plant, or they're not an animal or a plant. They're a fungus.
Yeah, but okay, whatever. Fungi is its own kingdom, so.
How many kingdoms are there?
Oh, I don't know.
Doesn't seem to be that many, right?
Animal, magic. That's all I know.
Sorcerer, warlock.
Okay.
LSU Tigers versus Iowa State Cyclones. I almost said Hawkeyes. That would have gotten some people very angry at me. Tigers versus Cyclones.
Let's go with the Tigers.
Let's do it. Let's go with it. Then we have Wisconsin versus Colgate. That's the Badgers versus the toothpaste. Nope, they're the Boy, we did this one last year, too. They're the Raiders.
Bears?
They're the Raiders. They're also Raiders. Badgers versus Raiders.
A lot of Raiders, surprisingly.
A lot of Raiders. Some of them in different colors.
So I'll go with the Badgers.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's what I would do, too.
Yeah.
Picking specifically off of mascots. Badgers a great name. Raiders, kind of over it. At least be a color of a Raider. Be the Blue Raiders, and then we'll talk. What about the USC Trojans versus the Miami Hurricanes?
Ooh, I want to go to Miami University so bad. So let's go with the Hurricanes.
This can only help your resume, I think. We can point back to this segment years in the future and say, hello, she had you guys making a good run in the tournament. We'll see exactly how good of
The U is officially back.
The U is back. Then we have below that the Auburn Tigers versus the Jacksonville State Gamecocks.
Let's go with the Tigers.
Tigers advance. Then we have, right, Rudy? Rudy and I are having a separate conversation about
Yes, you are correct.
I'm correct, right? Okay, very good. Don't worry about it, Chloe. Not even important. Let's test your faith in the Hurricanes here. Hurricanes versus Tigers.
Yeah, I'm going to Miami University, so let's go with the Hurricanes.
Okay, I can't wait to see how long this run lasts because I feel like you believe in them, but I don't know that you're completely locked into a Final Four run here. So I'm just really excited to figure out where these twists and turns lead us. Then we have the Wisconsin Badgers versus the LSU Tigers. Different Tigers and a Badger.
Let's go with LSU.
Tigers advance. Okay, now this is a toughie here. Tigers versus Hurricanes. LSU versus Miami.
Why not? Let's go with the Hurricanes again.
The U is back! Then, this is another tough one here, Chloe. It's a tough one. Are you sitting down? I hope you're sitting down.
Yes.
Jayhawks versus Spiders.
Oh.
I know, it's real now. You thought this was all fun and games. You thought this was some nonsense out here. No. Jayhawks, Spiders. For the right to go play the Hurricanes, I might add. This region is incredible.
Let's go with KU, the Jayhawks.
Jayhawks, Hurricanes. Then just pause for a second and think about how scary a hurricane of Jayhawks would be. And then you may resume picking this game.
I mean, the hurricane is full of ducks, so.
Yeah, let's go with KU. I mean, I love their Hurricanes, but...
That's okay. Look, I think that is a very respectable run for Miami, which has now set us up here for a fascinating Final Four. On one side, we have the Villanova Wildcats versus the Kansas Jayhawks. On the other side, the Texas Tech Red Raiders versus the Texas Longhorns. Let's start on the KU Villanova side, Jayhawks Wildcats.
Let's go with the Jayhawks for this one.
KU advances to the final.
This would be big, because if I'm right, I believe Villanova has knocked KU out of the Final Four twice. Like recently.
Never again.
Get that revenge.
KU's back for a revenge game. And then, out of the Big 12, out of the state of Texas, Red Raiders versus Longhorns. Chloe Brisco, your thoughts?
Let's go with the Longhorns. I feel like the Longhorns.
It's an all Big 12 national championship. Kansas Jayhawks, Texas Longhorns. Who wins the game?
Let's go with Jayhawks with this one.
Kansas is your national champion in Chloe's bracket. This is factual. Crown them now. I only have one more question for you, Chloe. What is the final score?
Oh, not this one. Okay. So, let's say for KU, let's do 64, and the Longhorns, 56. Make it close.
Yeah, that's honestly like a totally reasonable score, which I was really hoping you were just going to give me like 14-9, and you really just did a good job this year. So I'm really excited to see how your bracket pans out, because if you get a couple of these Final Four teams, you're going to be in a pretty good place. And if KU wins it all, you're going to be in an excellent place. Any messages you have for your fans, for the other people listening right now, looking for advice on how to fill out their brackets before we let you go, Chloe?
Just go off the mascots. That's how it always works.
Wait, that's how you do it?
Yes.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, okay. So you don't
Most
have
of it.
you don't have a big whiteboard with a bunch of advanced analytics that you've written down by hand on an erasable marker?
I'm not quite there yet.
Oh,
Not
okay. I thought that's how you're doing it this whole time. I didn't know you're just doing it by the mascots. We could have anybody do that. Picking it by the mascots. Wow. Okay, I'm sorry. No, I'm just in shock. Thank you, Chloe. Thank you, Chloe, very much for doing this. I cannot wait to see if you beat Beards again.
Thank you, Beard.
Well, Beards isn't here. All right. Thank you, Chloe. Love you.
All right. Goodbye.
Didn't say love you too.
Well, okay, fine. I love you.
Thank you, Chloe.
All right.
Goodbye.
Yeah.
I had the peer pressure of a nation just then. She knew people were listening. She had to say it back, or else she was gonna get.
She didn't want to.
She was gonna get some sad tweets. So wait a second. Why didn't Chloe say it back? I would have had no answer. There you go. Your final four: Texas, Texas Tech, KU, Villanova.
To be fair, he did call frog a reptile.
Is it not one?
Did you know you can listen to Almost Entirely Sports anywhere, anytime? Well, you can. Just search for Almost Entirely Sports wherever you get your podcasts.
Imagine every day a sport court game day. Imagine looking outside your kitchen window. Today's game is being played in your backyard. You know all the players' names, stats, and history. You've created the ultimate backyard with a sport court.
You're listening to Almost Entirely Sports.
You know what, Mom? Why don't you take a second, stop watching Pride and Prejudice, and go kill an 8-year-old, huh?
Wow.
Whoa.
With Joshua Brisco.
Let me try that again. Hey, Mom, why don't you stop watching Pride and Prejudice and go drop off a box of snakes at the doorstep of an 8-year-old?
On Sports Radio 810 WHB.
That's one of those liners there that reminds me that the vast majority of people currently listening to this show were not listening to this show, and it was on ESPN Kansas City from 4 to 6 p.m. every day. There's just, you know, there are some stories that you can't fully retell in a way that'll make sense, and you kind of had to be there, you know?
Have you seen this Schefter tweet?
Yes, I was just about to read it. Would you like to go ahead and read the tweet exactly as is?
Yeah. So Adam Schefter's tweeted, former Texan safety Justin Reed intends to sign. Oh, bleep. Ian Rappaport just tweeted. You know who he's signing with?
No, is it the Chiefs? Wow, it is.
We got it.
Well, that's cruel and unusual because that's where we're at here now tonight.
Yeah,
okay,
so,
there you go.
The original tweet from Schefter was that former Texan safety Justin Reed intends to sign a 3-year, $31.5 million deal that includes $20 million guaranteed per source. And you may be wondering what's wrong about that tweet. Well, he never said with who.
Correct.
He just kind of failed to mention that part. And then immediately as I was reading that tweet, I saw Rappaport's tweet. Tyrann Mathieu coming back.
No, he's not. Are
we sure?
Yeah, I feel pretty okay about that. So again, I'm glad that we got done doing Chloe's bracket before this happened.
Perfect timing, honestly. I mean, maybe not perfect, but solid. Could have been worse.
So I was going to read that original tweet. I did have the thought of like, well, the Chiefs are going to need to be in the safety market here. This is super interesting. Wow. Okay. So again, I'm going to read you the full tweet here for posterity. Former Texan safety Justin Reed intends to sign a 3-year, $31.5 million deal that includes $20 million guaranteed with the Kansas City Chiefs per source. That's a wrap on Tyrann Mathieu, I think.
Seems likely.
Also, we were hearing a little bit of chatter around Tyrann Mathieu and the $10 million-ish a year mark. I always believed and still believe that he will end up signing somewhere higher than that. But the Chiefs are telling you they've got a new $10 million annual safety. And they weren't waiting on Tyrann Mathieu's answer. That's pretty interesting to me. And it's not surprising, given his age, very recent play, etc. But it seems like a little out of order. Ian Rappaport says 3 years, $31.5 million deal with $20 million guaranteed. With the Honey Badger headed elsewhere, a new safety comes in. James Palmer says we hinted all day that Tyrann Mathieu is headed elsewhere. The Chiefs make a move at safety.
Probably to the Chargers, just based off all their signings, or the Jags.
Just based off how things are going here. I cannot remember Ian's last name. He is
Rappaport?
Nope. He's at NFL Film Study on Twitter. His display name is now just Ian. Nope, not that either. But he does some really good work on defensive backs. He says, no.
Kennedy?
Can I read his tweet?
Yeah.
Upgrade on Mathieu. Surprised he went for less than the value of the tag. Justin Reed, very recently, we had the most recent a little bit of Chiefs Texans beef. He had his shoulder wrapped in the postseason game. That might be your point of reference for Justin Reed if you're a Chiefs fan.
Brother of Eric Reed.
That's actually true, right? That's not one of those things where you pretend that he's a brother of somebody else.
He is the brother of Eric Reed. Eric went to LSU. He went to Stanford. Eric Reed, you may know as the player who also knelt with Colin Kaepernick. Ultimately, didn't, had a little bit of a stint with the Panthers,
I think, yeah. Now that you mentioned that, should clarify, Chloe Brisco, no relation. Has an E, actually.
Yeah.
That one's a joke, just in case anybody's not 100% sure on the jokes. So I've got, boy, it also would have helped if this would have come through just about, I don't know, about halfway through a commercial break instead of literally a mistyped typo tweet, setting it off the rails a little bit here.
Get a little bit of composure kind of, right?
And just to pull some things together, because this is not, again, for me, the surprise isn't the Chiefs bringing in another safety. They needed to end up bringing in another safety. Felt pretty good about Tyrann Mathieu not being back on this defense for another year. Also feel fine about that. Justin Reid is also 25 years old. By the end of his contract, he will be younger than Tyrann Mathieu is now. Tyrann Mathieu turns 30 in May. Justin Reid will be 28 3 years from now. Birthday in February, no less.
He's a good football player.
I think this makes a lot of sense, especially in a world where they were supposedly not going to be in on Landon Collins. Maybe the most important thing to me here is what the Chiefs have done is they have paid not an enormous premium for a safety who is going to bring some long-term, not Band-Aid stability.
And also Justin Reid. We're
because
talking about Sorensen?
Dan Sorensen. I also like this a lot for Juan Thornhill. His story is a strange one because in his rookie season, he was fabulous. And his knee exploded on him. His climb back from that, it feels like his entire second season, he was not fully at 100%. He's at training camp this year that he felt like he really was finally back to 100% before this last season. He was out there with the rookies and the veterans who were rehabbing from injury, despite the Chiefs telling us the year prior that he was fully healthy later in the year, which obviously he wasn't. But even last year, you saw Juan Thornhill losing some snaps to Dan Sorensen, especially early in the year. Justin Reid has to be on the field. I could see him being a really fun pairing with Juan Thornhill. And you've got yourself a really young duo of safeties back there that could be your duo for years to come. Certainly keeps you from having a gaping hole there in the absence of Tyrann Mathieu. Could allow you to move on from Dan Sorensen. Armani Watts is also an unrestricted free agent. So that entire position group outside of Juan Thornhill is completely underwater. I think this makes a lot of sense. I'm just surprised to see it in this order because the Chiefs told you you can't quit, you're fired, you can't break up with me, I break up with you, whatever it was. You heard a lot of coach speak and a lot of Brett Veach GM speak and everything over the course of the Tyrann Mathieu negotiations. We all heard about it publicly. Chiefs weren't interested in whatever Tyrann Mathieu's market is.
And the thing
Kent Swanson is currently going through and retweeting his 2018 tweets about Justin Reid.
I hope they were good.
No, yeah, they're all like him being very excited.
Whew. But yeah, and like it's smart too because one thing I was a little worried about is because they obviously there was some talk of like, hey, yes, we are going to, obviously we're going to be in communication with Tyrann Mathieu, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I thought there would be maybe like a little bit of negotiation there, obviously, in terms of seeing if he's willing to come down from whatever number he wants. My worry was more going to be more of, well, does that take a week before they fully decide to move on? Because at that point, who's available, right? Like, it's like I think it's always smarter, like you just especially in the NFL. I mean, we've seen it today, man. Like guys sign so fast, like these things you don't. The reality is you just don't have time.
Yep.
You have to make decisions. You have to decide if you're going to move on. You have to rip that Band-Aid off, and you just have to move on. Otherwise, you are risking missing out on guys who you actually think can fill that hole.
Yeah,
and maybe you find guys that can fill that hole, right? Like maybe you find the Melvin Ingram type who you trade a 6th-round pick for, and he turns out to be really good. But that you are not going to hit or make that hit, 75% of the time, right? That is a once every 5-6 moves you get that right, where it works out that well.
Yep. Currently watching Justin Reid celebrating on on a 3rd and 10 pass breakup and up 21-0 on the Chiefs from the AFC divisional round.
Oh, yeah.
This isn't fair to him. He had his shoulder in a brace and everything. It's just here he's making a great play, up by 3 touchdowns and getting the ball back. That game was silly.
By the way,
I think this makes sense. This is kind of, I don't mean to be terribly out of sorts. It's just a surprising time for a bit of a curveball, but one that I think makes a lot of sense.
Beekter on Twitch. I don't know if Reed, he didn't necessarily almost behead Tyreek Hill, but the way he hit him on that broken pass, he almost basically cut him in half, kind of, or split him in half. Not a dirty hit by any means. He just hit him hard.
His helmet ended up like on the NFL logo on Tyreek Hill's jersey.
He just drilled him.
And yeah, not like you can see this hit, which again, if you're looking for something fun to be excited about, and hopefully they can, 2 of them can hash this out. Tyreek Hill gets hit in at least standard definition here, like Doctor Strange would hit you, where it's like your spirit shoots out of the back of your body and waves. That's the hit that Justin Reed lays out here. This is kind of fun. Let's do this. And yeah, I mean the other thing here that is, of course, a little bit of a curveball is that this is the order of operations of Justin Reed in, Tyreek Hill out. Excuse me. Whoa. Justin Reed in, Tyrann Mathieu out. On a 3-year deal with 2 of it guaranteed, 25 years old.
They got. I think that's a big thing, is they got younger on I think on a defense, on a team where you always need to be trying to get younger. Like that's just how the NFL goes.
And I think maybe just straight better also. And cheaper? Seems like a win. We got a few more minutes to talk about it. We'll do that when we come back.
Take the show with you wherever you go. Listen live on the Sports Radio 810 mobile. This is Almost Entirely Sports with Joshua Brisco.
Tell you what, this has been the most enjoyable show we've done in a while.
Oh, for sure. Stupid Chiefs.
Stupid damn Chiefs.
On Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Do you see that Darth Maul was supposed to be in the Obi-Wan Kenobi show, but then they did like a whole rewrite?
I did not.
I would watch some Darth Maul TV content.
I assumed he would definitely be in there, at least a little bit. It's a little disappointing.
The news of the night is a late-breaking one, but the Kansas City Chiefs have signed former Texans safety Justin Reid, 3 years, $31.5 million, an $11 million signing bonus, and pretty much cementing the end of Tyrann Mathieu's time here in Kansas City. A 3-year deal, 3 AFC Championship games, 2 Super Bowl appearances, 1 victory. A pretty good run for Tyrann Mathieu here in Kansas City. But Justin Reid turned 25 in February and is on a 3-year deal here worth about $10 million annually. My guy Connor Christofferson of Arrowhead Report does some incredible salary cap work. You can follow him on Twitter at Connor_DKC. He says $11 million signing bonus is $3.66 million per year in prorated bonus. Would expect year 1 to cost about $4.66 million, and then year 2/3 to cost about $12.66 million each. So again, you hear a $11 million-ish average annual value. Ultimately, that's probably going to be a lot closer to a $5 million first year cap hit, because it's got to at least hit that prorated number each of 3 years. But that first year number will be lower, and then the Chiefs can maneuver around that a little bit later. Also hear from Brett Coleman, who I mentioned earlier in a Jags tweet he had, says this is such a good get for KC. I haven't found anything from the Texans side of things, from anyone who has gone deep into back to that 2018 draft class. I mentioned Kent Swanson's excited about this signing, going around to people looking at this free agency class right now. This is not only a really excellent player, it seems to be at a really excellent value. And again, somebody who at the end of his 3-year deal, maybe you let him walk and he goes and gets another deal that puts you in a similar place to Tyrann Mathieu right now, but 3 years down the line to theoretically be back there with Juan Thornhill. Maybe they even add another piece to that secondary. And even if they brought back Dan Sorensen, maybe he's your... When they bring back Dan Sorensen, maybe he could be your 4th guy. Maybe there's a young day 2, day 3 pick where you really bolster that depending on how they feel about Juan Thornhill. It's a good deal. I'm excited about this one. Justin Reid, the newest member of your Kansas City Chiefs, 3 for $31.5 million, $20 million guaranteed, but also meaning in all likelihood the end of the Tyrann Mathieu era in Kansas City. We'll have a lot more to talk about all week long here on Sports Radio 810. Basketball begins tomorrow. I'll be on the Zone with Jason Anderson and Beards McFly. We'll talk about this, I'm sure, plenty then. I'll talk to you in 12 hours. Until then, bye, Mom.
You are listening to Almost Entirely Sports with Joshua Brisco on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
In sports, we know that great athletes don't rest in the off-season. They train year-round. The same holds true in our business. This is Larry Ryan with Ryan Lawn and Tree. Did you know a lot of lawn companies lay off their crews for the winter? Not Ryan. Our full-time Ryan pros have been working and training during the off-season, studying the latest science about your lawns, trees, and landscapes. And while those other guys are starting from scratch, trying to hire new replacements, our employee owners are cross-training each other so that this year, like every year, no one can do a better job of taking care of your entire outdoor environment than Ryan. Call today or visit RyanLawn.com for a free estimate.